Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mad Liberty Party, where up is down, left is right, and the rules don't matter because, look at this freaking place, holy shit. How are you guys doing? We're coming together today. We're going to have a nice discussion about digital collectives, digital affinity spaces, and digital third spaces, and what it's like to build them and help guide and organize them and to do the maintenance and stuff like that, and like what they're good for and some do's and don'ts, bits of advice and things like that, drawbacks, bonuses, things of that nature. And we have a pretty widespread of guests here that have a widespread of experience, and I am really excited to introduce them to you. In fact, actually, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Like, we can just go around the table if you guys want. Willow, how about you start?
Me? Okay, I can do that. So, hello. You can call me Willow. I am active on the Mad Libertine
Get
server and a
is somebody
lot, a
speaking?
lot of other.
Mhm.
Huh?
I hear them.
I
Oh,
don't hear anybody.
I don't
Oh
hear
no,
anybody.
let me check and make sure people can hear you really quick.
I do
Say
hear
some
Willow, so
stuff.
that's odd.
Is it a
Oh
problem on
yeah,
my end?
no, it's coming through.
Yeah, I don't see my video or hear Willow. I didn't
Uh-oh.
even know Willow was in here.
I'm not sure what's going
What?
on with yours. You might want to like come out and then
Oh
come back in
dear.
maybe, and I'll just pull you back in.
I have no issues
Because it
with
may have
anyone's audio
messed up.
or video.
All right, well, I will
Everybody
reload.
else can hear each other, right?
I
Yep,
can hear
I
everybody
can, yeah.
else. Yeah.
Okay, good, good, good. All right, we'll just do that.
including me.
Willow, yes. How about you
Hmm.
introduce yourself while we're waiting on Jeremiah to come back? We'll go through everybody and yeah,
All right,
I'm
pretty
sorry.
much.
Oh, you keep
Again,
floating over here.
I
I'll
will.
clip
I
that
will
part.
attempt
I'll go
again.
back and clip that part. No, we're live. Oh no. It's
That's
fine.
fine. What are we, some kind of fucking centralized news station? No, we're not. Anyways,
Ew.
hello, I am Willow, and I am a mainly Discord organizer, which, honestly,
That's
saying
fair.
it out loud,
That's all I got
Christ.
for tabletop comedy.
um, Essentially, I organize a lot of different environmentalist spaces. Obviously, liberty adjacent environmental spaces as well. And damn, it is hard in this day and age. That's about it for me. Nothing else you need to know.
Really can be. Who do we? Oh, we lost Jeremiah again. All right, so who wants to go next? Hody or Gear?
I'll give way to Gear. I don't know what I'm doing yet.
Oh
All
no.
right.
Okay.
Show me how it's done, Gear.
So yeah, I'm joining you guys. Bread Pirate asked me to be here to speak with you, share my experiences and stuff. I'm the founder of Gravitas Digital Collective, which is one of the biggest anarchist Discord servers. We were established in 2019, so we've been doing it for like 5 years now. It's been an interesting process, learning experience.
Cool. I'm Hody Johns. I'm the I guess founder, but like I had a group of people that we started with, but the founder of the Love First Christians. We're a Discord server that invites both Christians and non-Christians alike to kind of be more vulnerable, ask serious questions, join us for Bible studies that are more than just skin deep and pleasant, to really dig into things. I wanted to create a community for it because I find that community can oftentimes be more important than the scriptures themselves when it comes to studying the gospel. And I wanted to give people a chance to have an environment like that. So yeah, that's what we're about, and it's been going great. I haven't had like a burst of people, but we've just been steadily gaining people every week. It seems to reach more ears and eyes, and I've been really excited about that.
I'm over there, and honestly, the whole space is really delightful. When I go into places like that, I always feel a little bit, like of nervousness, but like that went away so quickly.
Yeah, it was important to me, like, just from the get-go to, I mean, I even have it in the first message that you'll get, like, let me know, like, what your faith is right now. Like, I don't want anybody to be, I don't want you to be unwelcome because of wherever you're at on your faith journey or even your non-faith journey. And I want that to be clear right off the bat, because I think making people afraid or scaring them or holding hell over their heads, or just that's just a bad tactic, and I'm just done with it. I would rather create a healthy environment and let God manifest himself that way, as opposed to trying to like force God to manifest himself by like driving out evil demons or whatever. Like, it's Satan that can't be in the presence of God, not God who can't be in the presence of Satan, right? Like, let's be clear about that. So
Yeah.
if I focus on creating a loving community, then God's going to be there. I'm not worried about it.
That's fucking great. Are you back with us, Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Is it working?
So here's what happened. Here's why I use Skype. 'Cause, like, basically the fucking, like, I couldn't see Willow or hear Willow at all, and like then I like at the same time I couldn't see my like square, so it just wasn't
Huh.
loading everything directly.
Weird.
It's fine. It's fine. It's working now as long as I don't touch anything. So I'm not going to.
Don't touch anything,
yeah.
jeez.
So
Well,
like
Wait, are there
introduce
supposed to be
yourself.
more squares? I only see 3.
There's supposed to be
What?
5.
Let me try reconnecting real
Oh no, here we go.
Ah, dear.
Technical difficulties. Let's go out to the lobby. Actually, Jeremiah, would you like to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about your experience?
so
Alright, I'm back.
I am a cynical anarchist conspiracy theorist asshole who's been getting worse and worse for 15 years now. And generally speaking, I've like worse in terms of finding out more connections, finding out more ways everything sucks, and being very good at describing that to people and making their days bad. But generally speaking, I'm trying to burn down any bridge that links people to the state and build any bridge that we can build in order to get people away from it. So generally speaking, my goal is coalitions, building those between all schools of anarchy, including the ones that aren't real anarchists and don't like each other. And generally speaking, my goal is to be instrumental in smashing the state and uniting everybody against it across the globe. I don't think it's going to work, but we won't know until we try and get shot for it. So
Hopefully, I would prefer nobody get shot. Try and get some plates. But yeah, I mean, like, that's everybody here, and I think we have a pretty interesting spread of people. Like I said earlier, I want to start out with kind of like I want to, so like, people oftentimes when I bring this up ask me, what is a third place? What is a digital collective? What are these things? What are they for? And, like, I figured we could start out talking a little bit about like what these things are, what they mean to us, and why we think that they're important and useful. And personally, like, I'm going to sit back and let everybody else talk first, but I'll start out by explaining that, like, a third place in general is basically a space that is not work or home. It's like a social place where people come together and do things. Now, when you apply adjectives to them, kind of like anarchy, they take on different forms. Like in this case, a lot of us will be talking heavily about anarchist collectives and anarchist specific, like, third spaces. But I mean, like, they come in every flavor. They can be spiritual, they can just be mental health and support.
blue raspberry.
Any flavor you can come up with, you can come up with a third place. We have POC third places. We have anarchist third places. There's a bunch of these out in the real world. And in this new day and age, the digital third space is I think it's very important to people because of our isolation and our widespreadness, especially for free folk, and various other flavors of people as well, like queer people. We come together a lot on the internet. because we don't necessarily know that it's safe to do that in our communities right now. So, like, I mean, and collectives, I mean, they can be anything. Like, I usually consider them kind of like an affinity space where people come together for like certain ideals and certain purposes. Those can be very broad or very specific. They can be very big or very small. They can be heavily centralized or heavily decentralized. Like, it just depends on what you're looking for. Like, they apply to anything, and there's so many different kinds. So I hope that, like, while we're talking about this, you guys will get like an idea of several, because like we definitely have people with experiences in a lot of different kinds. Um, so yeah, I mean, like, I guess we can just go around. Like, Willow, what do these things mean to you? What do you mean when you talk about those things? And like, oh no,
Are you okay?
Get some water.
I
have water.
swallowed a bug. Oh my
Hey,
gosh.
some protein.
Right in the middle of this stream and everything. You know, like, why are they important to you? Why do they matter? Why do we need these things?
Okay, so my answer is going to be two-parted, kind of.
Mhm.
Essentially starting with my personal, I guess, definition or requirement for a third space. Like you said, it's a space that isn't work or home. And I would like to add on to that it's also not, to me, a place that has profit as a focus or as a priority. Essentially, a third space for me is absolutely anything that allows growth and community to foster. A third place is something that we can turn into whatever we want without any restrictions. And those in reality exist even less. A lot of people consider cafes, generally, even like corporate ones, to be third spaces. I don't really see that. Uh, but I guess since we're anarchists talking. Third spaces are very important for organizing. They're very important for finding common people with common interest, like us. And yeah, like I said, organizing, but I guess in the way that third spaces allow us to organize is, like I said, they're not connected to profit, they're not connected to any sort of entity. They are a space that we can do whatever we want.
Yeah,
And no one's going to kick us out.
by us, for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, what about you, Hody? What do you think about all these third spaces and collectives and how important they are? I think you kind of touched on that a little bit just in your introduction.
Yeah, it's hard when you're excited about something to,
It's okay.
to shut up. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. So this is a modern thing, and I think we need to embrace it, because we are past the days where philosophers were constrained by like land anymore. When we talked about community, when I talk about having a Christian community, listen, economics is global. I can get a can of beans sent to somebody on the other side of the planet, and the beans are made there, sent. Like, I don't have to put it in my mailbox anymore. Even I don't have to live next door to him, right? Like, this is something that I can do whatever. So, like, let's embrace that this is a new community. We are no longer confined by really kind of political geographic locations. Why allow a border to define us more than common interests, right? Which takes us to the other part of this. And it's something that I love, because with 8 billion people on this earth, if 0.00001% of people are interested in something like you, that's 80,000 people. That's easily enough to fill up a baseball stadium, right? Like, this is a ton of people that you could be conversing with. And how many people have a disease or something that affects 0.00001% of the population? How lonely does that feel if you're going to be constrained by whatever's around you, right? Odds are you're the only one in your state, like, with it, but all of a sudden 80,000 people are there to be like, hey, been there, done that, right? I went through a mental episode a long time ago. I'm good now. But I went through a mental episode, and I remember the issue was just feeling like I felt like they were going to name whatever was happening to me after me because I was the only one. Like, there's no way somebody else has struggled with this before. And then you meet people through these third places, through these digital third places where they just say like, hey, look, you're not alone. This thing that's happened to you, totally get it, totally relate to you. And eliminating that feeling of loneliness. We found that studies show that that's instrumental in eliminating addiction, disease, getting out of a cult, right? Like so many problems are solved by eliminating loneliness. As a Christian, I am inspired by the Bible when God created everything and said it's good. And then he created one person and said, not good. Not good for man to be alone. Needs somebody else. And so like attacking that loneliness is core to to our spiritual being. You know, who we are as people is not meant to be alone. You're not meant to struggle and suffer or even celebrate alone. That's a very lonely feeling too. Like when you have a good day, you should share that with somebody. When you have a bad day, you should share that burden with somebody. I look at it a lot, like especially with these third places. It's not bad that we say, well, okay, I'm not trying to make something that only appeals to 0.00001% of people. But you know what? There's some virtue in saying, like, I want to study a very specific thing, or I want to be interested in a very specific thing, and I want to get really deep into it. So deep into it that most people aren't going to be able to go to these depths, but I want to find people that can. You know, there's something to be said about when you go to a restaurant and they've got one very specific thing on the menu, that thing's going to be really great. When they've got 100,000 things on the menu, it's usually bad unless you're the Cheesecake Factory or Jeremiah Harding, in which case you're really good at, for some reason, appealing to a whole bunch of people of a whole bunch of different faiths and everything like that. Some people can pull off that sort of thing. But it's great to be able to have that specificity, to be like, I like this kind of barbecue. When we talk about barbecue styles, great. Create a space for just St. Louis barbecue. Create a space for just Central Texas barbecue. That's fantastic to have these discussions in order to be like, hey, you know, I don't want to constantly be involved in a fight of which barbecue is superior, right? I don't want to be involved, for example, in a case of like which version of Christianity is best. Like, that conversation is valid, but it happens, right?
Mormon.
I don't want another place, right? Mormon. Mormons win, right? The South Park thing. It was Mormon. That was the right answer, everybody. You know, so like having these circles that are the way that I want them shaped, that have the people in them that I want them to have. And I want this to be a place where a bigot can speak and become not a bigot anymore, as opposed to just immediately getting chewed out, immediately disqualified, or, which is what is happening with Christian nationalism lately, immediately embraced and celebrated and like, yay, you're great. And so that requires a very specific community of people. It's not going to appeal to everybody, but that's the beauty of it, right? I'm not trying to get it to appeal to 99% of people. The way you fight the drug war or racism isn't by overnight, suddenly everybody changes their mind. It's person by person. It's door by door. It's, you know, it's service by service. And being able to reach these people through these digital third parties, I think is key to the future. So let's embrace it now. Thanks for letting me ramble. That was very long.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I think that's my general feelings on the subject.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Jeremiah, do you have anything to add on to that? Like, what about all of these things like appeal to you? Why do you find them to be important?
So the first thing is, I sort of think that community is the physical embodiment of culture. And to me, that means that, you know, for instance, I watch Storer on YouTube. It's a parkour channel. And this parkour channel is fucking great. And they've got like millions of subs. They do some dangerous shit. They are who inspired me to get into parkour, which is why I do some totally not trespassing around Spokane. And like the reason I'm bringing all this up is they have certain language, certain cultural touchstones, certain things that you can, if you know, you know. For instance, if you see these people in public or anybody affiliated with the Starter Army, because they're British, you know, it's very unlikely you'll see them. But if you do, and you do, they will know you know. Because all you need to do is that sound, and people will know exactly what you're talking about if you're a part of that subculture. So to me, a third space is more of a metaphysical concept than it is a physical one. It can happen in a digital chat room. It can happen in, you know, any level of corporate anything. As long as you and your culture have your ways of identifying each other. For instance, if I'm talking Christianity, I'm going to say that anywhere where two or more of you are gathered, there I am. It's a church without walls mentality. So if you see somebody with a cross necklace and they're not some hipster douchebag, like, generally speaking, you can know you're dealing with somebody who believes the same thing you do. If you see somebody with an anarchy thing stamped on their arm and they're not a douchebag, you can know that they're somebody like you, something like that, you know, like little symbols and things. And the more of these cultural touchstones we have, the more like language we can speak, the more commonality we can build, the more we can drive at those sorts of things and be able to do them anywhere. Because if, for instance, I say gotta go fast, most people like at this point don't know what that is yet, unfortunately. But if I'm talking in a room big enough, there will almost certainly be somebody who understands that I'm referencing Sonic the Hedgehog. If you use these cultural touchstones, if you use things like them, you can form a language that means you can talk discreetly in public even.
Oh yeah,
And
dog whistles.
yeah,
Community first dog whistles.
exactly. Like, for instance, if I say if I say I'm like MLP, most people are gonna think that that's like My Little Pony. But if I'm talking to you, you know that I'm talking about Mad Liberty Project. And generally speaking, I can start to build these cultural touchstones. And the reason those are important is when you build your collective, you can have, like, you know, a house, a commune, you know, you can have a church, you can have a secret underground lair, you can have whatever you want. You could just have a normal group of normal people who go to like the bookstore and hang out and talk about Bookchin and Kropotkin and shit. Um, you know, like, generally speaking, you can be anywhere, and as long as you know these cultural touchstones, you'll be like somewhat secure. And so, to me, the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I think that it doesn't matter how allegedly corporate something is, and I think that the more oppressive a government is, the more necessary it is to be everywhere, even in allegedly hostile environments. And so for me, I fucking hate Discord. Discord is shit.
I'm
I
not
agree
super fond
so
of it
hard.
either, but it's so useful for
Yeah,
connecting.
but like, it's also owned by ByteDance and being
Yeah.
consistently monitored by not only Chinese but American surveillance companies. And that's the reason so many like Boog adjacent spaces went tits up, and a bunch of accounts got banned because of, like, you know, fucking
Oh,
extremist.
a bunch of green spaces went tits up for the same damn reason.
Exactly.
Almost at the same damn time.
Right. And so what my point in saying all of this is, in any number of authoritarian spaces, monitored spaces, blah blah blah, form your language and speak in those codes, say as many things in those terms as possible. Like, for instance, people who've watched my content for any length of time know what I'm saying. Like, when I say, hand them a bouquet of flowers, I'm not talking about roses. So when I'm speaking in these terms, it lets me create that third space in a metaphysical way, and then that can be layered onto everything. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is Discord, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, 4chan. You can be anywhere.
TikTok,
Yeah. And
anything.
and you can speak in these ways that you and your people know of, and you can form your third space on top of it. And in doing so, you're setting the model tone for instance, women's liberation in Iran, or for instance, queer liberation in Saudi Arabia, or for instance, queer liberation in Russia, or I could just keep on saying that. You know,
Just
like,
everywhere right now. Oh,
yeah. Fucking Louisiana. The general vibe is that I want to say is like, third spaces to me are everywhere and should be more everywhere. Build them everywhere. And like, I constantly bring this up when I talk about this shit. I say, like, build pockets of freedom. Do not go Free State Project. Do not go, like, fucking, like, join the next Jonestown cult. Don't fucking jack off into a bush. Like, just end up wherever you are actually doing what you need to do, regardless of where that is, and try to build your communities on top of whatever structure exists. Because if we don't, and we don't get global anarchy, we are fucked. So that's
yeah,
my fucking shit. I think we're
eventually.
seeing an apocalypse on the horizon, and if we don't rise up and get connected and build those bridges and start pointing our barrels upward instead of at each other, that's all we'll get. We'll off each other until we get off because we're too small and distracted to notice them pointing their barrels ever more and ever downward at us. That's my spiel. I'm an
Thank you. That was
insane
a really
person.
good one. I'm glad you mentioned that because, like, while everybody was talking, I started thinking about how TikTok creates like third spaces without spaces. Like, there's no space to be in. It's just like a network of communication, which is kind of cool.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, like, what about you, Gear? We've had some pretty interesting like opinions about this stuff. What do you got to say about this?
Yeah. What was the original question?
We were asking like what the collectives and third spaces really like. What do they mean to you? What do you think? Why are they important to us? What do they, like? Why are they necessary and stuff like that?
Well, it's like, the whole concept of like the watering hole, people get around and gather places for whatever, third spaces usually traditionally were physical, but like as other people have mentioned previous to me that they're often digital now, increasingly less so physical. I think some elements are lost in that translation. Uh
Yeah,
and I think we should probably focus more on bringing back more physical third spaces for people. The biggest thing for me is the expectation of spending money. There's a lot of spaces now that traditionally a third space. You ask somebody what that would be. Some examples, they'll tell you things like a bar, maybe a library,
bookstore.
restaurant, cafe, stuff like that. A lot of them, with the exceptions of maybe like the library or a park, are places you have to kind of spend money to participate in. And I think that in my experience, that sort of element it's driven people out of the picture because there's a price of entry,
Yeah,
so spaces like the library, parks, you know, if we were able to expand on what we have now to make them, modernize and upgrade and update what they offer for folks. Somebody was talking to me the other day, and they showed me a tweet. And they're like, it was something like, oh, if somebody proposed libraries today, like they would call it socialism, and people would like lose their minds. And it's,
Seriously.
and it has me thinking. It's like libraries as a system were built, largely like 150 years ago, basically. Andrew Carnegie was a big advocate of the library system, and as he was dying, I think he felt really guilty because he spent a lot of money building libraries all over the place. I think like 200 or 300 of them across the United States.
wow.
And that was around the time that it became kind of standardized for like small towns to even have them. Uh, but in that time, they've added a lot of more modern amenities and features. But when it comes to like recreation type activities, there's just the private sector has pretty much completely taken over that. And I hate to say it, but entertainment is just outside of most people's budget these days. People are having a hard time getting money together just to pay for their food, let alone food. I mean, food, transportation, everything, housing. It's all going up exponentially.
Real
Nobody
quick,
has a spare dime left to go to Dave and Buster's at the end of the week, you know?
real quick, I'm just gonna say CyberGhost VPN is really cheap.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Gary. You were saying. I just had to
That's a
say
good,
that.
that's a good point. Please do continue, Gary, if you had
But
anything
yeah,
else to add
I
there.
think that it's just important for folks to really, bring back like the classic. Even you look at like the Wild West type setting, right? They had like taverns and stuff where folks would gather. And then they had church spaces as well that were popular, but the tavern would often sometimes be in smaller, newly developed towns where the church service was held as well, because they would really only have one building big enough to gather people. Uh, and people didn't have to come there with any money in their pocket to just sit down and enjoy the space and participate in the community,
Yeah.
That's really not the case anymore. I think there might be some change on the horizon. I know Starbucks lost a lawsuit, I think, recently, so now they have to allow people to sit in there without, even if they don't buy anything. Uh,
Really?
yeah, so I think people are starting to change their attitudes on this one a little bit, but I don't know.
We'll see. That would be nice.
On the subject of like digital spaces, like I said earlier, there's some things that are lost in translation in the physical space. Like sometimes you need a guy to help you move your couch, right? You can't get that with your friends on Discord. But there's a lot of things that the digital aspect does better as well. It's a lot easier sometimes to have intricate conversations with a group of people in this type of space where you can more easily delineate and parse like what people are saying. There's less room for misunderstanding sometimes, especially if you have like the element of face-to-face communications and such.
Yeah, you can
With
hear tone.
That's true.
what's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, you can hear tone. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, you were being insulting, or oh, you were angry, or oh, well, I mean, it's sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm all the time angry, but like sometimes, like I'm less angry, and when people can't hear my tone, they're like, it's lost for sure.
Yeah, I get told all the time in text that I sound like angrier than I am, and I always have to be like, no, I just am, I'm trying to be direct because I don't want to sit here and type things out.
I come
Yeah.
off
Yeah, a
as
lot of
jerky
people
text
interpret it
sometimes
in the
too.
worst way.
Yeah.
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 Well, yeah, exactly. Tone gets lost. But no, I mean, as far as gravitas is concerned, what I've noticed is that a lot of people who have joined the community have come forward and like either to me privately or just like in the community itself said, this is a really great space to have because I can actually talk to people who are like me. Like I think it was Hody was saying earlier, the whole 0.001% thing. If you're like a queer anarchist, like POC, you
Oof.
know, such and such, you're getting
Vegan.
down to those little 0.001% of the population type numbers,
Two spirit.
And yeah,
Yeah.
sure, why not? Let's further filter it down.
Even further
And
down.
it gets to a point where there's a lot of people like us that live their whole life, day-to-day life, work, school, whatever, and they don't really ever talk to anybody like us, or they don't
Yeah.
talk to anybody that shares those kind of values, and it wears you down, because you don't
Does.
have the like somebody said earlier. I think community is a physical manifestation of culture,
Mm-hmm.
but without that community, the culture just kind of can also wane too. I think it almost is an anchor as well, right? Because without other people to kind of bounce ideas off of back and forth, it just kind of stagnates, and you find yourself just kind of surrounded with other doctrine, other ideologies, people who are
Mm-hmm.
kind of the normalized view, right? It's just it's an assault all the time on folks. So I think it is important for folks to have those spaces to go to and be like, hey, I fucking hate cops and I want to hang my boss from the top of the post office. And
Don't
people
say that
are
in
like,
Discord.
Well, no, I mean that's a song. So if you're just
Yeah,
bonding over
I'm just
music,
cheap.
Suspend from the post office.
right?
Oh my gosh.
No, you're just bonding over your mutual love of Pat the Bunny, and that's
Oh,
great, But
get my
there's not many
point.
fans of his out there, so you do have to kind of dig deep sometimes.
Oh yeah, you gotta dig through it to find, like, even when it's not anarchy related, like just to find your fandoms and stuff, unless you're just into like Doctor Who or something, because then you'll just find people everywhere. It gets niche. I can't ever find anybody who likes Dragonlance. Holy heck. Like no one knows what that is. By the way,
Dragonlands?
if you do know what that is, like
I'm
send
thinking
me
of
a
Dragon
message.
Tales. Sorry.
This is a world that is like adjacent to, it's a D&D thing. It's a
Oh, okay,
D&D
hell yeah,
thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a D&D thing. I don't want to get too off
sure.
topic or anything like that, but
But it's nice to
yeah, I
meet
mean, like,
people that know what it is.
yeah, exactly. And it gets exciting, and just not feeling alone is something that is like so freaking important, especially for free folk. I think especially in like affinity praxis-based collectives, like a lot of times people just don't really, like, they want to do something, but they don't know what to do, and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to decide what they want to do, and they can come to spaces full of people who can, like, tell them about things and help them form their own ideas and figure
Mm.
out all of these things together. And not only that, but like, it doesn't stay just online in those kinds of communities. We will send each other supplies, we'll send each other money. There have been times when members of like our collective have been like in a bad spot, and we go to, I mean, I know sometimes people think that's really weird, but if you call me and oh, why are there two of us? Yeah, is it
What?
just me or are there two? Oh, there we go.
There.
Okay. Yeah, so like we've had people be like, I'm not in a good space. And that could mean anything. And we're like, okay, where are you? We're coming. So like some of these
Yeah,
collectives, they come offline, and they can help people meet each other locally as well. I know that you need to be careful when you do that, but like I've connected with a lot of local queer people and stuff that way. It can help bridge the gap towards coming back to the grass with each other, so to say. And I think that that's also, like, really important. The mutual aid, like, we have to be the net that catches each other
yeah.
instead of the state, because one, the state's net doesn't work,
Parallel
and two,
structures.
like, yes, so like our parallel structures, like these digital spaces are excellent ways to network, to help build onto that. They're an
Yeah,
excellent way to supplement that. We can't focus completely on it because, you know, um, there may be times in the future where tyranny becomes so strong that we can't have these spaces legally.
yeah.
We'll have to hide them.
That's
Um,
something that's definitely been a concern of mine coming down the pipeline with everything that's
Mm.
involved with Project 2025. If we get another Trump presidency, I think there is a solid chance that a lot of these spaces may have to go dark. Uh,
yeah,
if not,
and
maybe not going offline, but we might have to transition to an invite only kind of
or
structure and
something like that.
stripping down the descriptions of things a little bit. Uh, which we already have. This y'all are no stranger to the fact that Discord is a shit platform.
Yeah,
So
Nope.
yeah, I've definitely had we're a community, we're like a listed partnered community or whatever, and I don't know who the hell at Discord approved that. Uh,
yeah. I've
but
I've been wondering that myself. I was
yeah,
like, are
well,
you?
you know what
Wow.
we we're very vague about a lot of the verbiage of what our mission statement is as a community. So
Hmm.
yeah, but sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but you're
No,
not
no, it's
wrong. No, it's
good.
scary times ahead for content creators, digital communities, and everything. I mean, they're coming after journalists. I mean, fucking, it's not it's grim. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads into
and our
like
only
one
hope
of
is
the.
Joe Biden.
Oh
Well,
my
and
god, and that's
Fucking
terrible
credits.
because Joe hasn't stopped 2025 at all. It's just like
No,
maybe it's
well, it's
going a little
already underway.
slower,
Yeah,
but it's, yeah, it's Wonderful. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone coming to save us, so we need to prepare ourselves. And like, that kind of like is part of my personal, like, I'm gonna ask the rest of you guys what possessed you to decide to
Demons.
do these things, get involved in these things, because like and we'll get into the ups and downs of it here in a little bit too, but like one of the things that really inspired me was the urgency. Like, we're all so separated, and I have an urge to create communities everywhere I go. Like, even when I'm supposed to be relaxing, I do it. I can't help myself. So like, I think maybe I'm
No, I
addicted to
feel that.
community or something like that. But like, my response to our community getting damn near destroyed by Nazis was to like bring in and build up a whole new space where people could like protect themselves from that, educate themselves, and like defend themselves and stuff like that, and work together and build our nets, build our parallels. Like, we have to get started at some point. And this was a long time ago when we first started all of this stuff. But like today, it didn't really seem like that much back then. But today, this thing has literally, I've had people tell me that this place has like helped them so phenomenally. Like, I don't want to say we've helped people like save lives or whatever, but I mean, like, we have ripped people out of cults. We have literally picked people up out of abusive situations, like that kind of stuff can save people. And that's what inspired me to to like put together MLTP and get it going. And I don't know exactly what inspires other people to stay there, but I really think that the capacity for us to like use this as a supplement to our actual collective is really amazing. um what 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 about, I'm gonna change up the order. Hody, what about all of this? Like, what possessed you to get up and do this? Like, what's the story here? Like, did something happen? Did you just wake up one day and go, I'm gonna build a thing and try to like herd cats with blow dryers? Like, what happened? What happened?
So to me, I've always known that I'm a bit of a unique story in that I came from kind of a conservative right-wing nationalist view and changed because people challenged me over time. The scriptures, especially, like studying them, I realized that like I'm kind of manipulating the Bible to say what I want as opposed to letting the Bible say what it says. And I was like, listen, if I can change, I want to see other people have the opportunity to change as well. I don't like this idea that it's just like we're going to punch Nazis until there's no more Nazis, or we're going to punch, like, it's non-functional, right? Like for me,
A little more planning, a
right,
plannier
like
plan.
right, like like eventually, like we're going to blow up so many pipelines that they're going to stop with the oil, or eventually we're going to
Someone's gonna
spray
clip
paint
the heck out
all
of this.
we're going to ruin all the expensive artwork, and finally they'll stop producing carbon emissions, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, these are non-functional things that actually, I mean, if we care about data at all, just can observe that they empower the other side.
Plus,
right?
we don't need to blow up any American pipelines. The U.S. government's got that covered.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I see what you did there. Right, yeah. Somebody's already taken care of that. So like to me, like I was like, listen, if we're not going to violence our enemies out of existence, then we need to love our enemies, like the Bible says, right? Like, and so I wanted a place that was conducive to people who I felt, first things first, I needed people who sign up for it. People who are like, hey, I'm down to have a community that is positive, that's willing to have these conversations. Because not everybody's cut out to be Daryl Davis, right? Like that is an unfair standard to give to people. He is an incredible human being, and he's incredibly gifted, and he's incredibly brave. And that's like when we look at the Bible and we talk about fruits of the Spirit and gifts that we have, not everybody gets them all. And that's okay. I'm not like, I don't want, and so it's like when I talked about limiting a community, it's not that I dislike other communities. I'm perfectly fine with having bigotry-free places. Like that absolutely should exist. You know what I mean? But what I want is a place where I say, here is a trans person that is going to be your friend. Are you ready to say that same stuff you were saying about trans people earlier to them? because I don't think you are, right? And this is the Daryl Davis strategy. Get people involved in a new community. Like, it's not just burning down all their old community or like trying to punch them until they're out of it, but making a new one. So to me, like I said, there's perfect. I'm more than okay with people having like bigotry-free zones, right? Like that should exist for people that want that safety. But I wanted to create a place where people like me could be like, man, I'm struggling with this, or I have this question, and I don't feel that something's not quite right here, but I'm scared to ask this question in my Bible study, in my current Bible study at my church. People are going to think I'm against God, or people are going to think I'm against them or something, or I'm scared. Because a lot of this is like people feel in their hearts, like when we talk about the Holy Spirit, people feel in their hearts that bashing gay people is wrong, right? Anybody with a conscience knows this. But what we have is we've outsourced this morality, which is always a bad thing to do, right? We've seen what happens when you outsource morality to government, right? Terrible. But when you outsource your morality even to something like the pastor or the Bible or whatever you think the human interpretation of the Bible is, that suddenly you find yourself going, well, I feel in my heart that being good to gay people is good, but I've been told it's bad, and I want to be brave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up to that little voice inside myself that's like, no, be good to your queer friends. And I'm going to stand up and I'm going to push that down. And then you get this pride element to be like, I'm proud of myself for like having this feeling that they're doing nothing wrong. And so I've suppressed that. So what they've got is this really unholy cycle of doing the wrong thing and acting against their conscience and rewarding themselves for it, the backlash that of course they get, which they should get, because they get that backlash, that's their reward. Oh, I'm persecuted. I'm doing the right thing because I'm so persecuted. And it's like, man, that is not what persecution is.
I own the libs.
Right.
Yeah.
I owned the libs, I made the libs cry.
The
And
best part is
like
most of the people who say
Check
I
that
own
off
the
for the
libs
day.
are libs. Like those people are, I'm a classical liberal. You're a liberal who doesn't want dad to think he's liberal. Shut the fuck up.
No,
So,
I
like-
own the libs, but also I love Reagan.
Yeah. Right. So I just wanted a place for people that could change, for people where they meet people like you, Bread, and then say like, so for example, and you probably don't even know this right now because we work on, different people's hearts, but there's somebody in this chat who has had, in fact, who is another person in this Discord, as on the Discord of another person who is also in this conversation. And I've seen screenshots that are jaw-droppingly offensive and terrible.
Oh my
the
gosh,
thing
yeah.
is they don't say that when they're talking to you. They don't say that when they're talking to somebody else. And what's happening is their heart is starting to change. And I see this now when they are discussing things outside of the Discord. They bring what they picked up in our chats and conversations with you and Patty and hang on. It's important that I remember these names here. But anyway, with Trish, there it is. And like these conversations that they pick up and just say like, okay, I'm becoming a more transformed person. Because transformation, let's be honest, how many people instantly go from bigot to not bigot? Right? That's a fictional thing, right? Like, right, not everybody gets to be Paul.
Too.
Yeah. It's a slow process, but I've seen the slow change in this person. We've had somebody
I think
probably
that happened to Kanye after he saw 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, that's a slow change in the wrong direction.
It's like that was funny though.
Yeah, that shit killed me. Oh my god. He was like, I'm no longer anti-Semitic after seeing Jonah Hill's performance. You know what? I wonder how Jonah Hill felt about that,
I could totally
He should put that in his resume, like converted Kanye, under like miscellaneous section.
Well, at this point, like I'll take this moment to say, if 21 Jump Street can convert Kanye because it's got a Jew, then I recommend everybody watch the Knuckles series on Paramount because it is very Jewish.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Watch Knuckles, love Jewish people.
Harley Quinn show.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sideline you there, but yeah, it's definitely a transitional process. You need to be able to be vulnerable during that time. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to like your reason. Like back in the beginning, we tried to make sure that we had a space like that. And like we have community members that we literally just ripped right out of the jaws of fascism and ran off with them. um the only reason why we closed our doors was not because we didn't want to do it anymore. In fact, people are kind of sad about not doing it as much, but like we need a space to just decompress because everything has gotten so bad out there. And so our collective kind of like shifted its focus there. And honestly, sometimes they have to. um but like I totally get that, like they need community
Yeah,
to come into, or they're not coming out because they have no support otherwise. Well,
yeah.
what about you, Gary? What inspired you to do this? What keeps you doing this every day?
Give me 1 second. Let me get that back on cam.
Oh, okay. I looked down and saw you were off camera just now.
Yeah, see,
Sometimes I look
Hmm?
sometimes I look around and I see just like so many people. Like you help so many people on a daily basis, I imagine.
See, I'm on camera, but I'm also eating cornbread.
All right, so
Cornbread. Oh man.
Yeah, I
so
got like fucking 15 pounds of actually 30 pounds of cornmeal for like $1.50 recently. So
Oh heck yeah, you're gonna be eating that for
what a
months.
bargain. Eating like a chicken.
So yeah,
Fuck,
what
bot.
possessed you to do this stuff, Garrett? What possessed you?
Well, oh, give me 1 second. Hold up.
Uh-oh.
So I originally No, it's okay. My kid's just running around. I don't want him
It
to
has
come.
been 1 second.
He'll come in
Uh-oh.
here and throw everything
By the
around.
herd of sheep.
Aw.
Anyways, I started it back in 2019 originally to be sort of like a anarchist, like gaming community type vibe, because I was looking around on different communities on Discord and on the internet looking for like gaming spaces, and it was just full of the most like vile right wing people you could find,
Hmm.
and they're always, the staff are always buddy buddy with them, so it's just like, well, guess I'll just leave, And I had that experience over and over again, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start my own with, blackjack and hookers, but with anarchy, and it was cool. But right around the time that George Floyd was killed, we had a huge influx of people, and the conversation became more about anarchy and less about gaming. So the community kind of transitioned, like you said earlier, because there was a need.
Yeah.
Uh, So it became less of a gaming oriented space and more of an outwardly just sort of a general anarchist community. And, like you said, it was because of the need of, I don't know, I think there was a very large, in general, increase in interest in anarchist ideas following the wake of those events
Yeah.
for obvious
Even
reasons.
during all of the whole 2020 response, I noticed that too.
But yeah, so that was sort of how Gravitas came to be where it is today.
That's cool. It was
Yeah,
just a little simple idea of wanting to have an anarchist gaming space that didn't have bigotry, and it just bloomed into such a garden.
yeah,
Goes to show you
absolutely.
never freaking know.
No, I was
Um,
pretty taken back by just the sheer like volume of people we received in the first like year that we were around. I think people were looking and people were in need of that kind of space. It just hadn't been done, or I mean, it had been done, but maybe not right at that point in time.
yeah.
So yeah, and then there was a lot of there was a big fall off, I would say, in terms of the boom in interest. And I mean, I'm not even just active on Discord. I'm on other social media platforms as
Mhm.
well. Because I'm a fucking masochist, I operate a couple burner accounts through Facebook and try to go dive deep into comment sections of movers
Oh
and
no.
win over hearts and minds.
Excellent.
Sometimes it's awful, but
Somebody's got to do it.
some, I guess I don't
Mm.
really know about that, but I do it though for whatever reason. And I've noticed also even on Facebook Spaces there was a huge boom. Uh, And a lot of it was because of the algorithms being tweaked.
Mhm.
I think they realized quickly that their algorithms were generated just to like detect outward like Nazi shit, and they had not really tailored it for extreme leftists or extreme anti-authoritarianism. So
No.
people were able to get kind of successful at some points, and then there was a lot of momentum happening, and they're like, oh shit, people are setting police departments on fire, and we might be on the line for that legally somehow. So
Yeah.
they changed their whole attitude kind of
Giant
shifted.
purges all
Uh,
across the board.
yeah. So it's hard to say how much of that was actually, now that I'm thinking about it, how much of it was organic and how much of it was because of the script change.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's how we came to
That
be.
makes
That's
sense.
kind of the move. I think that as much as I hate to say it, for a couple of years there during the Biden presidency, I think the liberals did go back out to brunch, as they said.
Oof. Yeah. I
And
don't
it's
know
just,
that they were even here. I think they were already out to brunch.
before he even took office, like as soon as they knew he had the win, they're like, all right, that's the last thing I need to care about for the next 4 years, And then they
Yeah.
come around, and now it's you got to dangle like Project 2025 in front of people for them to even realize what the fuck's happening. And then, yeah, it's wild.
It's really
What a
frustrating
world.
because, like, it's nice to have these collectives too, because at least we can talk to each other about it. Because going out into the world and trying to talk to other people about it, you get that, what do they call it? The fluoride stare or the blue screen of death. Like, they just
Yeah.
don't understand it. I don't know. Is
Oh,
it
it's
okay?
not even just that. There's a lot of the new conservative narrative that they've shifted to in the last like week or two has been to just pretend that Project 2025 doesn't exist, and that people are just like, they just call you like a schizo for talking about it. They're like, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? It's not a real thing. You sound
Yeah.
paranoid. And it's like, dude, it's fucking right here. It's published. Now the Heritage Foundation has been caught going back and changing the order of some of the chapters and adding a paragraph here and there to fuck with all
Mm-hmm.
the page numbers, so that people can obfuscate, I guess, the quotes that they had.
Uh-huh. Yep.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, I know they're doing just about anything they possibly can to keep people
Post-truthism in
tripped up.
practice.
Yeah. And people used to look at us weird when we'd say that a few years ago, but now, I mean, like, it's fairly obvious we're in a post-truth situation with a lot of stuff now.
Oh
And,
yeah.
like, that's another thing that our collectives can help us with, because if people are sharing their localized news, it's not going through as many filters to get to you. And a lot of things don't even hit a national or international stage. So us being able to share that stuff together, it's really nice to be able to just get the local news from people and then get fill-ins from the individuals in those spaces.
Yeah, and
It kind of
that's
helps
one
us
thing
defeat that.
with digital spaces. That's one thing that it does better than physical spaces, in the sense of just being able to bridge that gap over huge distances. I remember
Absolutely.
when Russia invaded Ukraine, uh, 2 years ago now. I was in
God, it
Discord with.
goes fast.
I was in the Discord call, like kind of watching a live map of the battles and shit that were taking place, and we had two different people who were living in Russia at the time join the call at separate points over the course of like the live stream and tell us like their firsthand experiences of what was happening.
Yeah.
I spoke to a guy who was there for the Egyptian Revolution. You know,
Whoa.
he told me what he witnessed when Gaddafi got the shit kicked out of him in broad daylight.
Oh, you
Uh,
forgot the knife up his ass.
yeah, well, sure. All that, he
Ooh.
was there. He didn't participate, but he saw it.
Mhm.
And I got to talk to Zapatista once came on
Yeah.
Gravitas and gave us a lecture or did a Q&A. Um, the perspectives, firsthand experience from people that you would normally, in years prior only be able to read about in a newspaper or a book, uh, and getting, asking questions and getting all of that response immediately. That kind of exchange is just, it's hard to overstate how much of an asset that is.
Yeah.
for networking and building communities, and also working
Mhm.
towards the goals of said communities.
Absolutely. Well, so what do you think about the whole inspiration thing? What got you doing this, Jeremiah? Like what you don't even seem like much of a people person. Why do you do this?
Okay, so that's actually one of the roots of it. The reason I'm a lot of the time not that much of a people person is because A, I'm mentally ill and refuse medication, and B, um the general like vibe of a lot of shit is I see things going downhill and people oftentimes contributing to that slide, and also not giving a fuck when like anybody criticizes them for anything. Um and so like I spent a lot of my childhood fucking either abused or bullied. And one of the common themes of that was that the people involved in that did not like that I did not participate in their culture in the way that they wanted. And so,
Mhm.
like, generally speaking, ultimately, I found out that a lot of people just aren't interested in rationality, and they have been bought into this, like, either dumb fuck or outright evil groupthink bullshit garbage culture that constantly fucks people over and results in early graves all around and oppression while we're here. And like my first response when I was in high school and really fucking stupid about a lot of this was if only I was in charge. That was dumb. Because first off, no one person should be in charge of anything. And
Yeah.
second off, my response to that was basically being a fascist. So um, I'm not proud of that. But what I can tell you is that what it taught me is how to speak in fluent authoritarian and especially right wing authoritarian.
Hmm.
And so I
Mhm.
started to think maybe I was not correct about this. And some of this stuff that was started to pull me out of that, because I was a pretty like staunch, just Republican Christian fucker when I was
That
like
is so
really
hard
young.
to imagine.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
Um,
god.
Yeah.
like when I was really young, I was like that, and basically at around 10 years old, I got into the Sonic franchise and a bunch of like interesting fictional stuff. And let me just put it to you this way: my dad called my mom's house Satan's little toy shop.
Oh lord.
And he really wanted to prevent
Ugh.
me from visiting her. And so my childhood was fraught with this sort of competition. I didn't want my dad to hate me. So I was like often in or the church or any of these people in my community, which was heavily right wing. So I was sort of capitulating in a lot of ways to the fucking shit that was fucked. And like a lot of stuff pulled me out of that. Um, as you can see by the poster behind me, I'm now very much bought into the Sonic culture. So that was a significant part of it. But basically, the thing is, like, that doesn't address the why I got into any of this really. The why is because I started to really look into some of the things I was saying in high school, and I started to really think about some of these things from maybe I might be wrong perspective. Some of the things that I was doing involved in my schooling also helped with that because I was in the gifted program for students who are like, fucking like, I've got a fucking 157 IQ, and that's allegedly important for some reason.
Eh.
I think IQ is bullshit, and I think it's oftentimes just
Yes.
either a luck of the draw or like where you were born, the access you had to certain shit. I've looked into some resources that say that like basic like research that basically proves that if you improve somebody's conditions and give them access to the same shit that the other people had access to, their literal IQ will increase, which means that it's not
Mm.
a stable score. It's a score based on how good you are at completing certain
Opportunity.
tasks, generally about pattern recognition. And those tasks can improve by your circumstances improving and you being in a better, like a closer environment to the culture of the person who made the test. So like I think IQ is bullshit. I don't think my 157 matters or puts me above other people. What I do think though is it gave me opportunities because since the school system is run by a fascist government, the school system put me in with a bunch of fucking nerds. and they were like, here's the smart people. All you're gonna go take Mensa tests and shit like that. And so I was with them, and it gave me some cultural enrichment opportunities that some other motherfuckers did not have. One of them being visiting a Buddhist temple in Southern California and living as sort of a monk for a day. So that was interesting, and like, sort of snapped me out of a lot of my preconceptions about non-Christian cultures. And so that sort of started to push me in this direction. And so I gradually started to pick away at, like, why am I a Republican? Why do I like George Bush? And things like that. And I realized, hey, I don't fucking like this shit. And so I was about to be 18, and I was like, but I also don't like the Democrats still. And I was like asking my mom, well, I don't like either of these fucking people. Which do I go with? And she's like, well, you do know there's libertarians, right? And I'm like, I don't. What's that? And so I went to the site, and long story short, I did my time in the Libertarian Party for a significant period of time, until I realized that a lot of the stuff involving the Libertarian Party is utter fucking horseshit. And I got disenfranchised. I got more and more extremist, more and more linked in with some of these like anarchist spaces, until maybe, I want to say a decade ago, but like I don't keep journals, so I don't specifically remember.
Yeah.
Like maybe a decade ago, I really snapped over into the anarchyville, but I was still like, hashtag voluntarist, hashtag, I'm dipping my toes in, but everything is still yellow and black. And like my mentality was very much, I don't like communists or Nazis, and I was putting them in the same boat. Even though there's like a whole school of anarchist communism. And then I started to look into all of it. And I was like, oh, the right wingers came in later, and like they're the new people on the block, and they should probably like know that and try to interface better with that. And maybe I should be more accepting to people on the left. And then when I started to say that, like my real, yeah, my real
It was over
break,
for you.
yeah, my real breakover into into anarchy spaces to begin with was me just being like, if I can't watch police brutality and war footage and still support the state, I have to be an anarchist. So I watched 2 hours of police brutality and war footage and came out of it, yeah, I don't fucking support that. And so like over the years, yeah, I just sort of like Clockwork Orange for myself. And so it sort of came out of that, and like gradually started to be like, I'm going to look into more and more of this. Did that. Eventually realized, hey, there's a lot of really like statist people affiliated with right libertarian circles. I can't exclusively support this. So leftists, like, I started to reach out to them. I started to listen to their culture. I started to research a lot of the more radical leftists and be like, oh, this shit makes sense too. And so, yeah, basically, long story short, I've made a whole lot of enemies since then, calling out a whole lot of fascism in right libertarian circles, while also staying principled to my roots in that regard, and calling out tankies and the like in left circles. And generally speaking, my goal is, and the reason I'm trying to do all this is, I see apocalypse on the horizon. I see everything going downhill toward a technocratic fascist surveillance and sort of biometric recognition super state, where we will all be fucked if we don't do anything about this.
Yeah.
I foresee, and I've said this so many times, I got this memorized. We got rivers of blood and years of darkness, the likes of which make Revelations look like a children's story. We've got all that coming if we don't get our shit together. And I think that one of the things that the state has done is cradle to grave make us hate each other, bully each other in schools, join these like factions in the church, like, oh, we don't like that church, or we don't like those people in this church, or something like that, or the community center, or the cliques in, you know, various places when you're young, or the coworkers, like the ones that you sit with at the office and the ones that you don't, and you know, all this shit just keeping us divided uselessly. And most of the people involved in the actual mechanisms of division want us to be consistently at each other's throat so that we can't fucking do shit against them, because we got limited time and energy. And after you spend all your time and energy shitting on your fellow anarchist or libertarian or somebody on the ground, your fellow worker, your fellow proletariat, the more time and energy you spend doing that, the less you have to go against them. And they like it like that. They want you tired after a day of beating the shit out of each other so that you cannot beat the shit out of them. And so
So
that you
like,
can't, yeah.
I was gonna ask, so like, is that how you ended up like just kind of like accruing little community spaces all over the place? Like, it doesn't even seem like you planned on it. It just kind of happened. Like you pick up people who are really inspired by what you're doing and like what you're doing, and they want to help. You know, it seems, and
There's
just kind
that.
of like
There's
glom
also
them
the
together everywhere.
Yeah, there's that. There's also the fact that, like, ultimately, I try to be inviting to those who are tired of this shit,
Yeah,
and I try to get them on board, and I try to get us all sort of moving in the direction of better spending our energy. And part of that is that I try to help them when possible. I try to
yeah,
encourage them to help each other when possible. I want to build a better community, but I also want to build a better culture, and I want to build that
yeah,
culture global. And a lot of people just aren't willing to fucking talk to one another. And so my job is to get in the middle of the room, be an asshole for long enough that people attack me until they realize I'm right, and then get enough of those people who agreed with me to be like, yeah, actually, let's go with this. I shake shit up, and then I try to get people aimed in a better direction according to my own principles, which are flawed. I'm full of shit
Hmm.
sometimes, but you know, like, at the same time, I try to understand more people every day. I try to help more people where I can, and I try to get more people on board. And generally speaking, people like the idea of being able to talk in a space in their own way, and
yeah.
not be just immediately shit on because they're left or right, or because of, you know, insert thing from their past, or because of whatever. We're all just traumatized, cradle to grave propaganda and fascism victims, and we need to realize that and move forward. My spaces are
Heal
for
together.
that. Also, we're a cult, so if anybody wants to join a cult, feel
We cult too. I honestly think that even though we may do it differently, a lot of unity movement people kind of like have their own tactic for doing exactly what you say, because that is such a commonly described tactic, even if we go at it in different angles. Because like I try to be a little bit more diplomatic, and like Jeremiah's like banging on the walls, knocking shit over and stuff, and people are like, "What is he doing?" But like it works. Everybody's work, you know, and us coming together in our communities like that, you know, we can apply those together. And I really enjoy it when we get a good like a good wingman thing going amongst multiple anarchists trying to push a message or engagement farm on something that really needs to be spread. But yeah, so like I guess that just leaves us with Willow. Willow, what inspired you to get involved with like collectives and doing the collective third space stuff and everything? What possessed you to do this?
Well, shit. It all starts far back, but not as far back as you guys, because, fun fact, I am the youngest one here. And something that makes my story a little different to yours is that I was raised on the internet almost. There was a
Hmm.
period of my life that wasn't surrounded by the internet, but most of it that I can remember included the internet. And wow, did that shape me. Besides the fact that I was raised, how do I put this? I'm not from the US, fun fact. But a large chunk of my family has emigrated to the US, even generations. So I grew up around a lot of Americans. And wow, does the US do a really good job at disillusioning people when you get to thinking
Oh,
for more than a second? Holy shit. I was raised thinking that oh wow, the US is amazing. Ah, God, I want to leave my country so bad and go there. One of the greatest countries in the world. Shit. Those kinds
Don't
of
come here. Run.
I would visit, maybe question mark for you guys and some other friends
Oh,
and
that would be
family.
so
I would
fun.
not live there. I would not live in the U.S. Hell no. You guys made me
Spokane is
so
pretty lit.
glad at how
Sometimes.
some areas of the U.S. are incredible, but generally because of the counterculture that exists there, and also again generally thanks to the government fucking up shit and getting people to create their own spaces and subcultures that are way more interesting than anything they could fabricate or create. Whatever.
Mhm.
Fuck Thanksgiving, by the way. I can't believe that shit's still being peddled. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I was raised in that kind of environment, uh, and I got disillusioned relatively quickly, but in a way that I didn't expect. I honestly think that my radicalization was thanks to the fact that I was exposed to um, Anglophone media and the fact that I could speak English so well. Uh, I was raised on the internet at the time when the internet became a place that whose sole purpose was to milk my attention and my feelings, my fears, and the innate energy that I was supposed to have for making spaces, creating
Mhm.
shit, and inspiring unity that was turned against, that was used to turn me against people and groups of people that have literally done nothing to me and that I barely even knew about. And mainly heard from people that weren't even part of these communities. That's something that I also really realized today when I talk to people who have misconception and prejudice about a lot of groups of people, environmentalists, trans people, non-binary people, gay people, all sorts of people, is that they all all of the feelings that they have towards them and all of the things that they've heard about them have never been from those communities or from people in these spaces, which I find very weird that a lot of people aren't more aware of that and a lot of people don't bring it
Mhm.
up as often. But essentially, yeah. By the way, Jeremiah,
Hmm.
you mentioned that you had a good period of being red pilled slash black pilled or whatever. Um, and damn, I cannot imagine how I cannot imagine how it must have felt at that time and how it feels right now because I barely had a year or two where I was anywhere near that headspace, not even that deeply, and I still feel like a fraud for that.
Mm.
Around 2016, that beautiful year, that that pinnacle of internet culture, is when, thanks to my upbringing from a gamer father and being in English spaces, and being a gamer, like I mentioned, that is a great proponent of radicalization. Being
Mhm.
a young queer person who mainly hung out with men gamers as well,
Oh my.
kind of created that space, that peer pressure of being against everything and everyone, and I guess the whole period of facts don't care about your feelings, this and
Oh,
that. But
yeah.
thankfully, I was in very distinct spaces, and I still had some core values that didn't allow me to get very deep into it. One being that I'm queer, so obviously I would never be against gay marriage or shit like that. But I was still on the verge of transphobia, and definitely didn't understand non-binary people at the time. And the other thing being that I was not religious at all, which frankly I am more spiritual now. But I was raised in a very weird religious environment that you guys might have experienced too, even though it's a different sect of Christianity. I come from an Orthodox Christian country where the culture is super weird. It's super weird about that, and it still
Y-
is.
Your voice makes me think, what, Greece?
Yeah, it is. I was wondering if I
Oh,
should
that
mention
was
it, but yeah,
really, really good guess. Jeez.
Mm.
that was what I should really ask later how you figured that out. But
Mm.
anyways, um,
I just know a lot of people. Is all.
Hmm. But yeah, religion. I hate the fact that religion is tied so deeply into the alt-right nationalism, things of the sort. When like like you guys definitely know, any teaching of Jesus does not condone any of this.
Right.
People say be like Jesus and they're not like Jesus. It's really it's silly, it's stupid. And if you think about it for more than 1 second, it's like a bell curve of understanding.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it's a bell curve. It's kind of like
No,
a
that's not a bell
straight
curve.
drop off.
An
Um,
exponential line going upwards, probably.
so like, what drew you into like anarchist spaces and getting involved in helping maintain them and organize them and
I
care
know
for
one might
people?
one would think, how the fuck did this person who used to
Yeah,
watch Libs Get Owned compilation number
I still I
357?
that's as hard for me to imagine as it is to me imagine Jeremiah as a Republican, by the
I
way.
know, right? But to be fair, I was, like I said, quite younger, and the culture around it was very much, oh, be a part of this because everyone else in your space is doing it, and you're going to be seen as like a sensitive lib cock if you're not.
Ugh.
I know, my brain hurts still. It's really fucking annoying. But so, where did we go from that point? Well, besides the fact that falling into this hole, but still having the values that I did, led me to be in spaces that were kind of contradictory to some of my beliefs or lack thereof knowledge. That was really challenged by a lot of people. I had a lot of inflammatory interactions, and frankly, one might say I still do because internet. No, not just the internet. Instagram specifically. Holy shit, that is a cesspool of the worst human beings,
Oh,
just concentrated into one place. Probably thanks to the Facebook merge.
But they
Where
make it look like they're the best people, and if you're not exactly like them, then you're dumb and evil and bad.
yeah,
oh yeah,
basically.
yeah, no. Or just it feels very disheartening to even mention anything because just so many people. But then there's also the fact that sometimes if you go to some posts and you scroll, like you'll see like a whole barrage of negative and shitty comments. But if you scroll further down, they're pretty neutral. So you can. It's really evident the role that profit and capitalism and social media has played into making us feel horrible and shitty and on edge all the fucking time.
Hmm.
And at some point, I became sick of it. Let's say I became tired. I had a burnout from feeling so mad all of the time, and I barely have enough energy, being chronically ill and shit. And then I guess at that point, that left me in a vulnerable state where I kind of just didn't see the point in being mad at people anymore, but I also didn't have any sort of direction. I was one of those fucking directionist leftists that didn't want to put any label on it, like, oh, I don't really get involved in the nitty gritty, and like maybe we shouldn't hate trans people and and non-binary people. Maybe that's a little shitty. In that kind of space. And then, very near my college entrance exams, a huge fire broke out on the island that I'm from that very nearly affected my family. Like, very, very nearly. I mean, fires happened all the time. At that point, one might also be, like, used to it, especially in Greece, where, by the way, if you haven't seen the news right now, we're on fire, kind of, every
Again,
year.
yeah.
uh, that kind of that really shook me. That really shook me to my core. And at that point, things kind of started clicking together, especially when I started getting more involved in the environment. Because at that point, I had an interest in biology, life sciences, and anything that lives, or even the non-living world as well. But in that kind of realm, um, but kind of nothing. Kind of there was something missing. I felt. And after this catalyst, this event happened, I, how do I put this? I guess I found a direction. The environment became, I guess, the hand that led me to noticing all of these shitty things about government, about capitalism, about all of these things interconnecting with each other, especially the government part. At that point, getting so fed up with how shitty the conditions were in my island, I kind of realized, like, I'm so used to this situation. Is there really no other way? Is there really nothing else that can be done about things like this? Like, and you start looking into it, and systems about protecting from wildfires, um, obviously the larger issues about the climate, and then looking at what our government is doing. And the only thing I notice are holes, glaring holes, just what's it called? Not just glaring holes, but
Hypocrisies and contradictions.
yes, hypocrisy, contradictions, and very much ego. Huge ego. Especially in local government from an island as small as the one I'm from. Holy shit. This place has probably radicalized me more than anything else. Oh, obviously big government too, but this is the government that I can see with my eyes. The scale is as small as my eyes can see. But yeah, I my descent started from that part, and I started wanting to get into environmental spaces online because, how the fuck do you go about this in person? I can't just go to people, especially at my school at the time, um,
Well,
and be
Ted
like,
Kaczynski just poured sugar in gas
Oh
tanks.
my god. Jesus.
he had balls that I did not, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know if I just felt it at the time to my core that it not only, I don't know if I would say it wasn't a safe space for me to be like, hey guys, environment, cool, we should do something about this, because you can kind of feel some heaviness around environmental subjects, which I kind of
Hmm.
now, like, not attribute to media as well. Like, I started noticing this after I became more involved with environmental causes, that holy shit, a lot of shows have the annoying environmental activist
Shut up,
stereotype on
hippie.
some episodes. Like, guys, we should it's either annoying as fuck hippie that does, I don't know, is very nitpicky about things that don't matter, or an outright hypocrite. Like,
Hmm.
I don't even remember what show this was from, like, what, just showing hippies tying themselves to trees so they don't get cut off. And then it turns out the hippie was like, oh, they, at night while everyone was sleeping, they unchained themselves and went to, I don't fucking know, eat grill shit like that. The stupid shit. You know what I'm talking about. You've definitely seen it before.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I
Propaganda.
started.
Well, they'll do anything but talk about the actual problem. Instead, they want to scare people about losing their stoves and cow farts and.
Seriously. Oh my god.
Or scare
It's
people into bad alternatives like fuck Elon Musk. Fuck Elon Musk and his
yes.
electric
I
bullshit
was about
surveillance everything.
This is in chapter number 2, where I
Oh
start where I start looking into online environmentalist spaces.
no. Oh
General
man.
ones, just going on Discord and being like, environment, and clicking the ones that had the most members. And my god. Now at that point I already didn't like Elon Musk because I had a brain and ears as well that functioned, but to be fair, that's an insult to deaf people. They they
They can hear it
definitely
too. They can hear
they
it
can hear
too.
it too with their soul. Again, the bullshit. It's hard to ignore. You can see it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you can feel it.
Hmm.
But regardless, so many Elon Musk bootlickers, so many eco-modernists, which, by the way, eco-modernists are essentially kind of like I don't remember whose sociological theory that was. The run just to stay in place. Um, Essentially talking about uh, trying to solve the ecological crisis by just modernizing everything. Just let's use tech. Let's use really high tech to just like solve everything. Let's and
Yeah.
seeing people like especially at that point when I started getting into actual like the actual science of it all, you start noticing so much bullshit. Like, ooh, new carbon capture technology, this and that. This machine will do this and this. And I'm like, have you heard of a tree? Have you heard of algae in the
Have you heard of
water?
a tree? It's so true, though.
Or oh my god, I recently saw someone share what was
One
it?
moment, real quick. Gear says he's got a book. So
Yeah, sorry, y'all. I gotta head out.
Oh,
do
Well,
you
hey,
want
do you want to do any closing a message or anything before you head out? And like, if you have anything to pitch, throw it out there.
Well, if anybody's interested, check out discord.gg/ancom. That's the community that I help organize.
It's a great
Yeah,
community.
we're always happy to have new faces around. Other than that, love each other and be good to people. Peace.
Thank you,
mwah.
and we really appreciate having you. I hope that
Yeah,
maybe
it's
in the
been a
future,
treat.
if we have something that interests you, you might hop into that too. We'll
I
see.
would be happy to come back for sure.
You're always
Awesome.
welcome.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Have a
Good
good
to meet
night.
you.
Likewise.
Make. Oh, I was.
Fuck
Thank
Elon
you.
Musk.
Yeah, and
Fuck
fuck Elon Musk.
Musk, fuck
Back to
Elon Musk.
fucking Elon Musk, but not for real, because you.
I know. Oh, Christ, no. But yeah, and the recent shit that I saw, what was it? These robotic little fairies can replace
Mhm.
bees. I'm like, have there's bee in this sentence. I don't even. What is the point of even opening my mouth at this point? But yeah, seeing a lot of these lib ass people in the main environmental servers kind of got me steering in a different direction. That direction being solar punk. To be fair, saying solar punk, it wasn't necessarily just the label of solar punk because it was mentioned here about hyper specific communities. This is where I'm getting to that
Yeah.
hyper specific communities can be very important. I wouldn't even necessarily even call it hyper specific. The world is so complicated. Just three labels is barely enough. But that led me down to looking into solar punk, which mainly for its optimistic nature, because in these general environmental spaces, you see a lot of fucking doomers. You see a lot of doomers. You see a lot of people involved in climate politics, specifically aiming to work for the EU, which, no, and shit of the sort. So that naturally led me to Solarpunk. And while I was searching for Solarpunk servers on Discord, which I know Discord fucking sucks, it really does. I hate it so much. I can't even put it into words. And I tried Revolt. Revolt is great, but people don't fucking use Revolt because Discord has money. I hate money. Anyways, I saw plenty of Solarpunk servers. I
I
went to
feel
most
that.
of them. Yeah. I went to most of them, and in that list, I saw an anarchist solar punk. So the thing is, I did not want to press on that initially. At that point in time, and for most of my life, I don't know what you know about the general Greek public, but anarchists are painted in the worst fucking picture
Mhm.
imaginable. If you're
Yeah,
not
good
close
reason there.
to, yeah, if you're not
Well, not good
adjacent to
reason.
it,
It's a shitty reason, but like,
very shitty.
they
Yeah.
have trouble with anarchy because anarchy has trouble with them.
Oh yeah, and they really need to keep anarchy in check here because hating the government is our culture essentially. Which is weird that anarchy isn't
That's
bigger for
nice.
them.
That makes me want to move there.
I know,
Can I
right?
stay with you?
Like people that like politicians here are seen as insane. Like
Wow.
actively supporting.
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Like if your attitude towards politicians is more than Oh, I guess this guy fucking sucks, but I guess I don't know. Maybe they're better than the others.
Mm-hmm.
You're insane. You're crazy and you're stupid.
I went through. You're describing basically the same steps I went through to get into more
Mm.
environmental anarchy spaces. Because, like, I only knew green anarchy a lot when I was young, and it was because I hooked up with random people, and I was very lucky to meet them because they are not super public on the in the grass.
Haha, in the grass.
In the
It's a good one.
grass, though. But yeah, so you got to the anarchist solar punk space, and you didn't want to
I
click
didn't
it.
I
What
didn't
made you
want to
click
click
it?
it. It made me I clicked it because the other servers were either dead or still filled with those fucking eco-modernists. So at
Liberals
that
and
point I was like, fuck it. You know what? This is my last resort. I don't want to
this
let
is
go of
my
this
last
idea. I'm
resort.
gonna go
I was just
here.
about to say Papa Roach.
So I entered anarchist solar punk, and the rest is pretty much history. I went in there thinking, I'm not gonna be an anarchist. Come on.
And
Fast
now,
forward to now being one of the main organizers of the server, which I didn't even apply for. And this just started happening to me where people were like, hey, can you be a part of this, of the moderation here? Or, hey, I made you a moderator. Or not even telling me anything at all.
you
Last
just got
week,
usurped into this stuff. You got shanghaied. Is that an okay word to say? I don't actually know. I feel
is
bad.
it,
I don't know that word confused. Maybe not
You're
is
that
that
word.
probably
word
fine.
I,
Shanghai?
I'm gonna have to look that up and see if that's okay to say. For now,
Yeah,
I'll say
sure, go
it,
look it up.
but tentatively.
Fair enough.
Not run off
It's a thought
with.
that counts as well. But yeah, that the rest of
You're
that was
really good at it though. Like you're constantly trying to teach people stuff and just kind of like a genuinely caring individual. I mean,
I
I've
try to
seen
be
people wear it
because
out, but like it's not easy.
I really try to be because besides the fact that I've realized from my school days, which I was also in a gifted school, and that fucked me up massively.
Hmm.
Although it also gave me opportunities, which cool, I guess. um, it really, how do I put this? I noticed academia was incredibly inaccessible, and especially you'd say it's the age of information. Well, the information we can find today is shit. Or
Hmm.
people there's surface level information there that is either illegible or will just
Or
hard to
piled so
find.
high that you can't figure out what you need out of it, or any number of things, right?
That as well. And also kind of critical thinking and literacy is not doing too well. Uh, Something that really got me into organizing spaces for educational purposes is the fact that I noticed, no, not that I noticed, that I guess from the feeling that I had as I was getting deeper into environmentalism and biology and ecology, that wow, the world isn't the way that people make it seem to be. And the information is just there, and people don't have access to it. So
Hmm.
teaching people about this stuff, especially the natural world, because today, anywhere you go, you will hear the motherfuckers be like, in the animal kingdom, the
Oh,
man fucks, the man hunts, this and that,
that's
women
so
take
not
care
how
of
it
kids.
works.
That's
I
not
told you.
accurate.
No, not at all. In fact, in a lot of situations, the landowners are the women.
It's just general, nature is incredibly fluid
Hmm.
in more
It
ways than we
is.
can
It
ever
is.
imagine. Hell, the
Oh yeah.
platypus, I believe the platypus should be not a platypus. Actually, no, yeah. The platypus should be a symbol for something. I can't believe this organism exists and people haven't used it as a symbol for what it
Maybe that should just
represents.
be the unity symbol. Like, I can't believe this thing exists and it's got too many parts.
Platypus? Unity the
Motherfuckers
platypus?
gotta motherfuckers gotta read like Kropotkin's Mutual Aid.
I don't want to like
A lot of
I
people
don't want
do.
to alert the extremist authorities or anything, but there actually were platypuses being used in anti-government boog spaces.
Yeah.
They
I
gave
love
them
that for them.
tactical armor and everything. They were super cute. And
That's
that
so
was
cute.
not part of the fascist stuff that people have come to know now, obviously,
Real
or
quick,
any of the narrative.
apparently Shanghaiing is it traces back to the process of drugging somebody so that you could sell them off into labor in
Oh my
Shanghai.
gosh, that
But
doesn't sound
Jesus
fun.
but
Christ.
at the same time, like it's not to do with the Shanghai part. That's just it was a common enough place that these people were sold to effectively
Oh.
that
Oh, okay, so it's geographical. It's not like racist or anything.
now it's not saying them people from Shanghai they'd be, stealing our women's. It's more like this is where they eventually ended up a lot of the time. But if you do want a less potentially offensive thing, you could say crimping, because apparently that's what the
Crimping.
actual process is called, crimping.
Crimping.
You
Yeah,
got
you
crimped.
yeah, you
That
find
kind
people,
of crimping. That's like a hair thing. You got crimped. Now you're
you
Oh
squiggly.
yeah, like the
so
'90s
That's cool though.
douche.
Crimped.
appa-
And there we go. We learned something new on top
apparently
of
it's like
everything we're learning now.
you go on a ship, like an enemy ship, and you drug their sailors so that they then pass out, and you can then load them onto your ship, forge their signatures on work documents,
Holy heck.
and then like have them shipped off to where they're forced to work in a place like Shanghai or a variety of other locations.
That's so sinister.
It's
Huh.
basically like drug slavery.
Wow. That was
Yeah, don't
dark.
let the CEOs hear about
That
this.
was dark.
You're
I
welcome.
do,
See, I make
but
people's day worse. I have to.
you sitting here talking about your want to, like help people with education and stuff like that. That was actually how I think that was actually how I met you, because you were in one of these random collective spaces, these third spaces, and you were just offering free lectures, and I was like, "What? Oh my god!" And I just like sat in it, and I was like, "What do we do now? What are you going to teach me? Can I ask questions? I have ADHD. I'm going to have to ask questions."
Oh, I love
And
when people
you're
ask
so
questions.
patient. You're always so patient with everybody, and you never have a you genuinely seem to love like actually teaching people stuff and seeing people learn stuff, which honestly not only like drew me into wanting to know you more, it helped me, like I already liked that space, but it drew me into that space more.
Mhm.
Like you strengthened the collective by just being you and sharing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people seem to appreciate that because, like I said, I joined the anarchist solarpunk team because one of the mods at a time where I think an argument was going on and I was just mediating for the sake of it. People were like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this. Do you want to like join us?" I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, yeah, this place is pretty cool. I'll do that."
It
And the
seems
rest
like
is history.
a lot of our stories are more like there was a need and so we filled that need. You know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
necessity. Like these are a necessity because they are and because they're needed, and they just don't, like there's never enough of these more niche places to like serve people and stuff like that. And I mean, we kind of like went into some of the physical parts of it, like like building these spaces or picking the platforms or possible troubles that we have ahead with that, sec
Hmm.
issues. Somebody mentioned VPNs. Like it is that's a whole more or that's a whole ordeal all in itself. Like we have a very complicated server at MLTP, and we use all sorts of little bots and everything. And the more complex your space gets, the less help you're going to have running it, because people don't really all know how to do that. Trying to find moderators that know how to
Yeah.
actually build and work Discord on the back end. It's not so hard to find people
Hmm.
who want to like help, like guide and organize the community. But when you ask them to push buttons, like they go, "Wait, what? I don't want to push buttons. What if I ruin it? Like I don't know how any of this works."
Yeah.
And so like personally, I think all of you guys have built spaces yourself I'd like to hear from y'all, like some of your like do's and don'ts, like your lessons learned and
Mm.
stuff like that so far about your stuff. I think I don't know which one of y'all is newer to building it. You or Hody or Smelm. So like I'm not sure. Like who wants to go first? You guys pick one.
I'll go just because I haven't spoken for a hot minute, so people could hear my
Yeah.
voice again. I think for me, like letting the community be what it is, as opposed to trying to be an authoritarian and force it into a certain direction, I think is pretty critical. I think allowing it the freedom to evolve and be what it needs to be is what it is. I think we all have plans, of course. Like we all have plans. We all have
Yeah.
things that we want to see. But allowing your plans to kind of go by the wayside and be like, because like for me, I have an example of like, I have how I want to talk to somebody who is struggling with what they think is perceived like homosexuality in the Bible and the anti like homosexual verses. I have answers that I have, but they're very, anybody who would listen to me has probably heard from me and either changed or rejected me.
Yeah.
So why not give them the opportunity to hear it from somebody else? And
Yeah.
I might listen to it and be like, that's not as good as my answer. My answer went into the original Greek and looked at examples from the time period. But that's
what?
not the way people work, right? Like all of a sudden, like it could just be something they hear. Like, so a good example in my life, I was like an anti-drug guy or whatever until for whatever reason I'm watching the internet and I'm watching a dog have a seizure. And this guy takes cannabis oil and rubs it inside his dog's gums, and within seconds the dog is calm, collected,
Yeah.
and like it's okay, right? It's a happy dog.
Mhm.
And just the fear in its eyes when it's going through that seizure. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Now here's the thing. Are human beings a bajillion times more valuable than dogs? Of course, right? Like I should have known before this. Everybody, like
Hody
there's probably
exposed as
100.
a speciesist.
There's probably 100 people who could be like, wait a minute. So all the stuff I showed you didn't work, but you watching the dog did work. But like it's all planting the seeds, right? Like it's all working up to it. And who knows when that turning point's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean like
And so go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, and like having a good space for that to happen in is like paramount.
Fertile
So
soil.
how'd
to
you
plant
go
a
about
good
building your
seed.
space? Did you have any hard time when you were building the space to like for people to collect in, or like was it pretty easy? Did you have anything that you wish you'd known before you started?
No, the tech is a little difficult. So the interest was there before I built it. I
Right.
reached out on my other social media and I was like, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing this. Is there an interest for this? Of course, overwhelmingly there was. Like, I think people have kind of the classic, like evangelical spaces, but those tend to be either anti-Christian, which is I think for me, I want the freedom to leave. I want people to have the freedom to leave the faith. Of course, I don't want you to be here because you're forced to be here. But I also don't want it to just be ripping on Christians 24/7 or ripping on Christianity, 24/7. And so there was a need for that, and I think there's a place in between. I don't like saying gay, like queer affirming. Now, here's the thing. In all practical sense, I am queer affirming. But what if somebody needs the ability to explore and then find out, oh, I am just a tomboy, or I am just a guy who's in touch with his feminine side, and so I don't
them kind of take their path.
Right. I want you to be able to explore, right? Like, and so I don't just want to affirm you right away because that's locking in you another path. I want you to be able to explore to find the right path for you, And so I think like not being explicitly like we're pro-gay and we're driving away all the anti-gay Christians, yay, as well as not anti-gay, I think is a unique enough thing that there was a hunger. And so when I saw there was the hunger, I set it up. So if I have any regret, it took me, I'm working and everything like that. It took me several days to try and figure out the technology just to get a Discord server that had a message that popped up that allowed people to select the circle that they wanted to be in when they first joined. You know what I mean? And all that, like I had the vision. And so I do kind of wish I had played around with the technology before because there was a lot of people then waiting. You know what I mean? There was like I'm still excited for this, Hody. It's been 3
You get
weeks
to it and
though.
you're like, oh shit, I'm still trying to push the button. So
And the whole
I
time,
know
and
that
this whole
feeling.
time, like they wanted a Bible study, and I'm like, man, I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. And I understand StreamYard. I've done this before, but like I'm trying to put everything together. And there was a lot of, and I didn't want to kill that excitement. So I guess if I were to recommend anything, it would be to get the tech in place, and then kind of open the doors to people. But
I
just,
wish we'd done that too. I wish we'd done that too so much, because like we have had to redo our whole space over and over again. And if we'd have just kind of taken our time, we probably wouldn't have had to do that, except for when we became a community.
Yeah,
I totally feel that. There's always like time to build back onto it and stuff, but like, you know, I had to go back and clean everything up. It got real messy in the back end, especially with all the roles and permissions.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, what about you, Jeremiah? Do you have any like regrets or advice or do's or don'ts about putting together actual like digital spaces, like in a physical sense, like with the tech and stuff?
So, the first thing that I'm going to say is use cases. Like, if you're actually trying to do anything illegal and get anything illegal off the ground, don't. But if I were to write a character in a book that was going to do something illegal, and I wanted to make that character as realistic as possible, the way I would write that character is that character would have servers that were redundant in some way, maybe on blockchain technology, maybe on something federated, maybe on something like, that would give them the ability to have as many different like backups of this server as possible.
Spread out like the water bug. So if you lose one leg, you stay up.
Right. So for instance, if I wanted this character to use some tech that existed now, I could suggest that this character use something like Session, which is a Tor-based end-to-end encrypted like chat service.
Or Matrix or anything like that.
Yeah, or Matrix, but Matrix is a little trickier because then you have
more
to self-host
complicated
it.
to set up. Yeah.
I would also maybe recommend that they use some sort of tech like Bastion, or Odyssey or something like that for their actual digital media. But honestly, sticking more to just chats and things that are like buildable and breakable very quickly makes a lot more sense for my character.
Yes.
But like generally speaking, what I did with my original space, like I totally haven't been banned from Discord before. That is never happened.
That would never happen.
How would that happen?
You're the most well-behaved citizen.
If it did, though, like part of the reason that would have happened in the past was because I was running an anti-war server, and also an anti-pedophile server, and they specifically said that the
word.
What?
I said, "Oh, how could you?" The
Yeah.
worst.
So, like, I like if they did ban me, which of course I would never set up another account after they did that. That would be wrong. If they did ban me, they would have banned me for going against people and groups. And so generally speaking, they like have this thing where they'll protect some truly terrible people as long as it keeps their image preserved. And so a lot of these tech platforms will fucking do that. And the thing that I would recommend is don't wear your community's intent on its sleeve. Start building some of these like like that secondary language. Build your culture around those symbolisms,
or
those
vanilla it out and everything, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. And so like my new community, which is totally the first community I've ever had on Discord. That community is very specifically from the outside. It's related to the Sonic fandom. And it is. I do talk a shit ton about Sonic in there, but once you get in, there's sections for gardening. There's sections for like learning various faiths, various languages. If somebody wants to do that, there's like a lot of these places don't get used a lot though, because like people started some shit and then they decided against it, and I'm not going to force people to do anything. That's kind of not the point.
Yeah.
But there's also like there's literally channels directly for argument. There's channels directly for certain types of philosophy. There's channels for like all sorts of like survival fiction, news, whatever. And like I started this place as a joke because I thought I would get banned.
Yeah.
Because like it totally didn't happen before, and like I'm totally not on the same IP. So like the thing is, like, I thought this place would get banned, but part of the reason I think it hasn't is because I've observed relatively good OPSEC. And one of the ways that I've done that, one of the ways that that's manifested is like, generally speaking, I tell people to follow TOS. I
Mhm.
ask them to remove things that like don't like comport with that, and
Yeah.
usually they comply. I try to keep them away from saying things that would like get my space damaged, and a variety of other things like that. Like you can't just tell people to kill themselves. If you do, you're immediately out. Um,
Yeah.
if you start talking about doing illegal shit that could like get the thing
Mhm.
tagged, you're out. So like if people are
Sussy
willing,
stuff too.
yeah, if people are willing to like use alternate language, they can say a lot more. But they can't just be like that by default. And so like there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of things that basically mean that my communities are handled quite a bit differently than a lot of others, and that might be why they've stood the test of time. Also because I've got pressure relief mechanisms. If they want to do that shit, like if they want to have a deeper conversation, they can meet me in one of my end-to-end encrypted locations. Like I'm
Yeah.
on Session, I'm on Signal, and I've got rooms on both. So things like that, um, where like people who are interested in like having a more serious conversation can do that. And then in terms of physical space, I would say like do a significant amount of your like let's just say ultra legal stuff on online, so that you can have those things organized beforehand, so that
Mm.
anything you do in person is as short and sweet as possible. And then you can just look like a normal community of, for instance, people blending in plain sight by like, yeah, this is just a football club. This is just a chess club. This is just we just do D&D. Don't ask about our patches. Like things like that, where it's
Yeah.
like hidden in
Don't
plain sight.
ask about the beeping sound in my
Yeah.
jacket.
Well, I mean, like we slide under the radar because of all the Wonderland stuff.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and so like my primary thing is develop that culture, develop that understanding, develop like between people there, develop that understanding that we're going to behave a specific way here, so
Yes.
it's not to pop
No
off radars.
sussy.
Yeah.
No spice or no spicing.
Yeah. And so generally speaking, that's the vibe. And what I'm also trying to encourage people to do is try to build their pockets of freedom.
You're
Uh-oh.
lagging.
He'll be back in a
Pocket.
sec.
Oh,
He's back.
there you go. There you go.
Try to build pockets of freedom fucking
Mm.
everywhere, and
Oh, yeah.
don't specifically and exclusively be in one or more places.
Mhm.
Like free state project is such a fucking bad idea. Where like, yeah, let's all move to this really small state with a bunch of statists in it. The people there, the vast majority of the people in New Hampshire don't like those people. And it's not a popular decision to make to be
Yeah, they
one of the
don't get on well with the bears either.
yeah. And so like generally speaking, what they did is they concentrated everyone in a location. It didn't actually give them like total freedom. and they can say, oh, well, we've got this really high freedom ranking.
Well,
Yeah, freedom ranking, according to a right-wing organization that places you
Yeah.
really high up
yeah.
because your idea of freedom is very right-wing. So it's like, fucking that's the reason at this point, fucking the Libertarian Party, which is like so much fascism these days, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire Twitter account
Oh,
is very, very
jeez.
fascist and
It's
telling
terrible.
instead of protesting the new laws that are on the books, telling trans parents to get out because it's no longer safe. And that's
Hmm.
the reason you've got people like, and I know this is going to piss off some people I know, people like Rechtenwald celebrating when Florida, like creates enough laws that families are leaving the state and saying like physical removal
That's
mission
fucked.
accomplished.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
and so like all these like rightoids are telling you to move to Florida because it's got, DeSantis was sick on the lockdowns, yo. Well, first off,
Ugh.
not at first. And then second off, he's a piece of shit about so many other things. And if you're not a
Yeah.
bootlicker, you realize that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
In the same way, New Hampshire is also full of a bunch of this shit because most of the people who moved there were basically the effective Republicans who liked weed and oftentimes also child pornography. And
Mm,
generally speaking, when I'm like trying to tell people to make these spaces, I'm saying build it where you are,
Yeah.
because if we're not resilient enough, if we don't have enough of these examples fucking everywhere, then we like stand a risk of just isolating all of our eggs to that basket and getting made into an omelet. So like generally speaking, if you want like freedom as an actual thing rather than just a thing on the horizon that you like look to for inspiration, you got to like start building it where you are. And if we don't get a global sort of culture of this, we don't stand a shot. So
Yeah.
what you do is you use these sorts of things to
Yes.
build something in person. You be there for each other, you trade food, you
mm,
know your neighbor, you help with like their physical projects that they need, and
Hmm.
you don't fuck that up. And you do all this shit on such a routine basis that the people who would say that you're doing something wrong would obviously be wrong if they fucked you up, would obviously be
yeah.
wrong if they tried to take you down, take you out, get the government to like nobody that's like remotely ethical is going to say that the raid that happened to Rawsome Foods was a good thing. Or that the Philadelphia move bombing was a good thing, or any number of other things. So the more you can just do this, just build your shit and be really obviously not the bad guy. Fuck Chaz. Holy shit. That
That
was a
did not
bad
work out.
fucking
No,
idea.
yeah.
And the reason it was a bad idea is you didn't start with the culture. You didn't
No.
get a whole lot of
Yeah.
people there who are actually informed on anarchy and knew how to be autonomous. And so, for some reason, the people who didn't know how to be autonomous, when you gave them a zone, were still not fucking autonomous. And I wonder why. And
Honestly,
so,
it's gonna probably piss off a bunch of people, but that's what happened with the Boog too.
yep, and Occupy. And so,
And
like,
Occupy and so many other movements throughout the ages, and we need to
Anonymous.
learn from those mistakes. Anon, yeah, all of those we need. Why we keep repeating these mistakes, I do not understand.
Because the
Um,
thing is, a lot of people are there for the aesthetic and not the actual tactics, and they don't actually
Yeah.
want to look into the philosophy. They don't give a shit about autonomy. They just wanted to do drugs at the Chaz and be part of something, man. Fuck you.
oh,
So
jeez.
like that's the thing. You got to get serious people on serious board with doing
Mm-hmm.
serious shit. Get serious shit done in your serious neighborhood. Really real now. Get there, and then or use your online spaces maybe as a way to do some of this organizing, but primarily just know people, make it meet space, and then use your meat in a better way than the state wants you to by being ground into beef for their fucking machine.
Yeah.
I'm
Thanks.
very angry.
Oh, me too. Honestly, I dig the vibe. What about you, Willow? Do you have any like regrets or like advice you'd give for the tech side of things or anything like that that we didn't already cover?
So in terms of tech side, fun fact, I may be mentally ill, and that is
Oh,
one of the reasons why I have not had to reorganize any of the servers that I have started. Now, in terms of servers that I hadn't started, like Anarchist Solarpunk, which is my main one, uh, there that helped me figure out a lot of pointers that I could give people. One
Mhm.
of which is keep your identity roles at a minimum. There's a
Yeah.
bio for a reason, and you cannot possibly satisfy everyone. The
No.
amount of philosophy, praxis, identity roles we had on Anarchist Solarpunk spanned pages.
We
It was a
used to have
horrible
that,
idea.
and we cut it all down, especially like the economic and ideology rules. Like you have three choices for
Mm.
economics. You have commie like, markety, and then balanced. Those are your three options for social leading.
It's
It's
like,
proggy, trad, balanced. Like keep it
yeah,
as
and they're so
open for anybody.
reductive. And they're so reductive. Like, what do you mean, commie? Like, are we? Does this encompass library economy, gift economy? What does this mean? What
We just mean
it's
all of it.
I know, which is like why
We just keep
fuck
it
the
open and
labels.
broad. I'm like, look, if you can't figure out which side of this you
Yeah,
end up in, just pick balanced. It's fine.
Oh, and if any
I mean,
libertarian out there resents me for my comments about VPNs earlier when people were talking about how expensive entertainment is, debate me on IP. I will fuck you up. Like if you don't dislike libraries when all they're doing is loaning out other people's works, then you should eat shit before talking to me about this subject and telling me I'm wrong.
seriously. And also, if buying media isn't owning media, stealing media. No, sorry, pirating media isn't stealing it. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Copying
And
is
yeah.
then
not theft.
exactly.
There's no
And like
such thing as
you
intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned the VPN thing. It dawned on me really recently, like 2 days ago actually, when I was trying to watch Drag Race with Tara.
Oh dear.
I was mentioning about the way that I acquire this show, and what was it? And I mentioned to her about it. She said, "Oh, I need to put a VPN," and I'm like, "Huh?" And then I realized, oh, not all government is as technologically inept or shit or backwards as ours. And I'm
Mm.
so thankful for that.
Well,
I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
I definitely
Maybe I have to
advocate
go there.
CyberGhost. I think it's available in Greece if you want it.
I'm gonna look into that. I really am. I haven't needed to use a VPN for things of the sort yet, but we'll see how
Oh,
things are going.
also, it means that if you visit a site and they log your IP, it's not yours. So that's kind of
Yeah.
handy.
That's sexy.
Well,
I like that.
we've been talking about all this great, good stuff and everything that
Wait, wait.
has to do with this. Oh wait, did you have more
I
to
also
add?
have one more point, and
Oh,
it's a quick one. I
I'm
guess it has to
sorry.
do
I
with
jumped the gun.
no, it's okay. Besides, like mentioned by Jeremiah, and I think also by Hody a bit, in terms of keeping your community safe, keeping backups and things like that. Get creative. Look
Yes.
into open source. Uh, look into open source alternatives. Help people find the resources that they need for this. I fucking love looking into open source stuff. I actually, for my Solarpunk mental health server that I made with the purpose to. So basically, in Anarchist Solarpunk, there was the feelings channel that at some points of the year, I guess I could say, was used more than any other channel. Um, and I noticed kind of sometimes might have been from people who weren't active in any of the other ones, kind of just wanted a place to vent out their feelings. There were a lot of people like that. There were some that were regulars, there were some that, yeah, like I said, didn't really interact besides the feelings chat
Hmm.
event. So I decided I would make a specific space for that, but that not only catered to letting people vent, but having resources for people to um, to get help if they were in a crisis, in
Yeah.
lots of different countries, and also for things more specific to the movement, like doomerism, combating doomerism, and bringing each other up, things of the sort. So I looked into Revolt, which is essentially an open source alternative,
Yes.
pre-federated alternative to Discord that has almost identical function, pretty much. It just, lacks the extra, especially commercial functions that Discord has. Like, it doesn't have forums, it doesn't have the activities, no video call yet, no screen sharing yet.
Mm-hmm.
A little further back, but visually it's almost identical. And I managed to, and this not everyone can do, but there is a bot code written on GitHub called RevCord that essentially makes a bridge. Like you make a bot and you enter it in your server, and it makes a bridge between your server and your Revolt server. So
Huh.
I made an identical copy of my server where if people write anything on the Discord server, the bot writes back as the user in the Revolt server and vice versa. So that I would have a literal identical copy of this server if it went down that people could go to. Things like that, I mean. It's it's a lot.
It's good stuff.
And I should
It's
do
good
that for
stuff.
Anarchy Solar Park too.
Backups are great. I need to do that. I need to do that. We used to have it set up like that with the Matrix, but it was only certain channels and stuff. But that sounds like a great idea.
They have it
Thank
on
you.
Matrix. It's an even better
I'm getting
idea.
advice over here. The real truth is that I just invited you all here so I could steal your ideas and use them in my own spaces. No, I'm just
There's no
kidding.
such thing as
We all
stealing,
share the same
comrade.
spaces. It doesn't matter.
Ideas cannot be stolen.
That too.
That's true. That's true.
Eh.
So we've been talking about a lot of really positive stuff here, and I don't
Mm.
really enjoy always talking about the negative and everything like that, but I think
Oh,
that
if you
there
do, you can have
are
me on. I am a doomer.
yeah, we're gonna get like let's get to
I
the
can heal
everybody
you.
break out the
I can
black
fix them.
pills because digital collectives and third spaces are not all roses. They are not always a safe thing.
Hell no.
Depending on what that that thing is for, it can get really unsafe. Like
Mhm.
our digital collective is for like top side TOS friendly stuff and everything like that, but we still try to keep a security culture just to teach it to people because people are so casual with that they end up getting roped into things and
Mhm.
set up by all sorts of things. Like fascists will like literally lure people offline into dangerous places and hurt them,
The feds.
and feds will set people up. They can be anywhere, they can be literally anywhere. And we have to, and I always like, we're sitting here talking about all of these things, and in the back of my head all I can think of is, and the fascists do this too. They are very good at it. They create these spaces
Mm.
more prolifically than we do, and they spread them around. They're very good at popping back up because they've got more experience with being, like smashed, like nuked. Um, Oh, free folk spaces that I've been in, like that's a new thing. And by new, I mean like over the past like 6 to 8 years, we have had way more problems with being like nuked and stuff like that than I remember having in the past. And they're experienced with that. And they, like where you cut one off, five more pop up and everything like that. It's crazy. And they also be in our spaces. So, the security culture is so very important. Um, and if you don't watch your ass, like bro was saying down there, like if you try to organize digitally, if you wanna like he said, if you want to organize something that is not legal or above the table on the digital, don't, because you never
Yeah.
know who the F you're talking to or who's looking at their phone or what's going to happen. And if you do decide to do the spicy, or even are in a space where you might do the spicy and people tell the spicy jokes, the feds that are in that space, and the feds who and the narcs and the fascists and stuff like that inevitably get into those spaces, they will clip those things, they will give them to the feds, and you will go to prison, because they will actually put you in prison over fucking memes. We've seen it multiple times, and if they can't do it over the memes, they'll use it as an excuse to search your house.
Yeah. And
You
ironically,
know,
a lot of other spaces with way more horrendous jokes that I have been in never get the same treatment. Ever.
yeah, and with Discord specifically, like anything you write, anything you upload, it will always be there. They can go back and access that stuff. You cannot delete all your messages and save yourself unless you're just trying to hide yourself from people that are using Discord. I'm it's really difficult to cover your ass once it's already been plastered across the internet, unfortunately, just like everything else. Um have you guys like do you guys have any like warnings, negative experiences or anything that you'd like to share about this kind of thing that you think other people might find useful?
Try to develop good instincts, because here's the thing: there have been so many times when I was right about somebody and somebody didn't believe me, and I had provided a really good list of reasons that they should, and then somehow that person fucked them over.
Right.
Or like
Yeah.
trying to
Oh, look, we've got fascists.
these viewers
Uh-oh.
know many of these guys are groomers, pedos, and pedo sympathizers. They're disgusting as fuck, and you shouldn't listen to any of these fucking clowns. I'd like you to prove that.
Oh yeah, no, they can't prove any of that. There's actually been like several different groups of very, very bigoted, fascist, horrible people coming around trying to do that kind of shit and trying to prove it. Like we literally had somebody come into the front of our Discord and try to sneak their way in. And when we told them that they shouldn't post pictures of their dick in the front or in their balls in front of teenagers, they literally screen capped me saying don't show your balls to teenagers and ran off to go, oh, they're pedos, y'all. And I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Do you smell burning? Anyways, fuck these guys. Like this kind of thing is exactly what you want to keep out of your spaces, especially if you have youth. What they mean by groomers is that we're queer and that we have queer people around, and that there are queer youth that in and out of various communities looking for support. And we're not bigots. Basically, we don't throw them out. I hate pedophiles, but I hate real pedophiles, not the ones that you label because they're a person that you don't fucking agree with. That's disgusting. You got to be fucking ashamed with yourself playing to the state like that. You're nothing but a freaking fascist, statist, imperialist cocksleeve. Now, speaking of which, back to what we were saying.
Also, if you were really into capitalism, you would be able to make videos without Getty Images and Shutterstock. But anyway.
Oh no. We're gonna get petty.
Anyway, you're talking to the crowd that makes tutorials on how to make automated AI content farms.
This motherfucker has 1 subscriber, and like his top video, his only video, has 5 views. It was 2 weeks ago. He's trying to make a name for himself and sticking his dick where it's unwanted and unwarranted. And he should realize that there's a significant chance that he's full of shit and not like, fucking play pretend and cap. It wouldn't surprise me also if this is the same person who like has been shitbagging me in a specific Discord server, because he comes off as exactly the same.
It could be. I don't recognize the wording. Most of
I just realized we're not talking about some random hypothetical person. And
they actually like popped in to tell everybody that like we're terrible and stuff. They can't fucking prove it though. Prove it though. I implore you, please. Show the proof.
I wonder if it might be someone that I recently banned, because I recently banned someone for, what was it, promoting, or what was it, like lolly porn apologism?
Ooh. No, thank you. No,
the usual.
Yeah, so I guess like our biggest thing is, like our biggest complaints is that numbskulls like this person which is
Yeah.
thank you. Actually, you have helped us. You have given an example.
Great example.
Yeah.
Numbskulls who come into spaces and push ideas like this on people who try to make spaces for people who need support. They're just fools. They're just fools, and they're useless.
Had a Facebook page before the purge
Ooh.
with
I love
3K
when people use
followers.
slurs.
But anyways, yeah, you gotta watch out for these kinds of people. One of the ways to keep them out of your space is to actually make it hard to get in. Make people use nuance. Make people talk to you to get in. Make there be
Vetting is
several
very
steps
important
of
for
vetting.
spaces. Yeah.
Make them have to read a lot before they can even vet. Make sure that these people are actually dedicated into getting into your space. Also, that
That
they can
too.
fucking talk the talk and walk the walk before you let them in. Um, you know, having really long, in depth vetting is not a problem. If people get tired and they leave because it's taken too long, they didn't need to be there in the first place.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Make
feel
people
like we're talking
freaking
about
work
someone
for it
specific.
and clean things out very quickly. Be very willing to protect your spaces.
And not just the space as a space, it's important to note that this is about community as well. You have
Yes.
people in your community that are vulnerable and that need, like, you have innately online, the way that, internet spaces are structured, you have a form of power
Yeah.
that you need to take with full responsibility, fully
Mhm.
seriously. I have fallen into that shitty pitfall before of being too, not lenient or forgiving, but not being harsh enough on things that I really should have been in order to protect my community. Like giving people chances when they have completely fucked them over, like broken them again and again, and just waving those red flags that you can tell are going to be an issue to the
Mm-hmm.
demographics, like something that we have an issue with, and a lot of these people are very vocal about off the bat, is not necessarily with that label, but some primitivists. My God, the ones that aren't the type of, oh, I like living primitively, but it's not a be all solution or whatever.
Yeah.
Usually the ones that are anti-medicine, not really great for our, chronically ill and disabled members here, being told that, hey, you kind of you should have been naturally selected off there, bud.
Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, like,
That
it's one
that
thing if you're
technology
trying to, like,
that's
open
helping
your
you live.
space to create more understanding and stuff, like what Hody tries to do.
No, we
That does
always
bring up
ask.
a good
Mm.
point though. Like, Hody, have you guys ever gotten to the point where you've had somebody like hit the line where you're like, no, thank you, and had to like show them out? Like, where is that line when you're trying to
Mm.
reach somebody? What do you think about that? Because like I've come to those questions myself and had to just,
Same.
sometimes you have to let go. What happens with that with y'all? Do y'all have that a lot?
So we haven't. I will say I think it helps. We have a disclaimer at the very beginning that it's like, hey, this is a place of respectful discussion. So like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you're not interested in respectful discussion, it's not going to work for you. So I think people one of the things that I like to say is if you're having like a party that celebrates like a pizza party, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to attract anti-pizza people there
To
because
the
the
pizza
theme
party,
is a pizza
right?
party,
True.
right? So
Yeah.
when the theme is like, hey, like loving positive culture where we discuss tough subjects in a safe environment, you're not going to get many people that suddenly want to infiltrate that, unless
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't have fed issues like you guys have, so thankfully I don't have anything
Allegedly.
like that.
Allegedly.
We have had we did have somebody who was just like, I can't with like, and it wasn't anything our server said, but I mean, she even said, and I know this person outside of the group. So, I mean, she left, but she was like, I just can't do it with Christianity. Like the nationalists have ruined it for me. And like, I can't even talk about Christianity anymore in a way that's like rational. And she left herself as opposed to like being like, so F you Christians or anything like that.
Mhm.
Like, and I think that again, I think that it's helpful when people know what the expectation is, that they kind of escort themselves. They're there. So like if you hate pizza and you show up at a pizza party, I think defining yourself as a pizza party is helpful. And so I think a lot of what can help is if you define what is acceptable or unacceptable behavior right off the bat, because people do like to pretend that they are the most moral person on the planet. And so if they've given you some kind of agreement that they won't do anything bad or behave outside the rules, and the rules are very clear, then at that point they're like, well, if I break the rules, then everybody's just going to be like, you broke the rules, you know, you're a jerk, you know. So you know, if people have that understanding right off the bat that they want to feel that they're being moral, so they will escort themselves away from the party. My thing is like it's the reverse of gatekeeping. I don't want to have somebody at the door scanning every single person that comes in, carding every single person.
Man,
whatever.
we do. We're like, you got 3 hoops to jump through, and then you can talk to so and so, and then you can jump through 3 more hoops.
Right. To me,
like different uses for different spaces.
Yeah.
Or different applications for different spaces. Sorry, I said that wrong.
Yeah. It's all good. I mean, and different things for different groups. Like, I totally get it. To me, what I would prefer is, instead of gatekeeping, highlight the pizza. Like, and let me be less
blunt. Look at the pizza and smell the pizza.
Right. Let me be less archaic with this symbol here. If we're called the Love First Christians, right? Like, we are all about God being love. We are about that ecclesiastical love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is, so if you're like, we're talking patient, we're talking kind. To me, that's the theme. So why? So people don't want to be a part of that if they don't like patience, if they are impatient, if they are unkind. The theme of the party has made them leave. I think the problem that a lot of, especially libertarian groups and Christian groups, get they become cesspools, is because they don't make clear what the theme is right off the bat. Now, what they say is, oh, we failed at gatekeeping. Shoot, a couple of bad eggs got in there. But I think it's less about the gatekeeping and like who you censored right off the bat, which, again, some of it is fine. Like, you know, if there's a known white supremacist who joins, that's one thing. But if you just say like, hey, we are dedicated towards a positive thing. Liberty spaces struggle with this because they think they don't know what they're for. They're anti-government. They're not for healthy culture. So as long as you are anti-government, you are free to crap in their swimming pool as much as you want, as opposed to saying, hey, we are for clean swimming pool. Reflexively, because we are for clean swimming pools, we are anti-government pooping in our swimming pool as well. Like, and so, you know, to me, like, if you make anti-government the theme, that's a secondary theme. You're whacking at the branches of the tree instead of the root.
Right.
And so that's why a lot of these places kind of become cesspools. I think Christianity struggles with this. Even though it's supposed to be a pro-love message, Christians spend so much of their time being like, well, I'm not technically sinning when I do this. If you're spending your whole life technically not sinning, you're not living a great life. It's like saying I technically didn't cheat on my wife last night.
Lukewarm, and I think Jesus had some words to say about lukewarm Christians.
Right. We want somebody who is interested in love and goodness, and those are positive things, to the point where you're not worried about like, is that hateful? Did I cross the line into hateful? If you're constantly straddling the line, you're going to cross over it into at some point, as opposed to leaving that line behind and saying, you know, if somebody's not maximum loving, at least we're still loving, right? Like, we're still in the vicinity because we're pushing for maximum love. And I think that, to me, that's the kind of thing I would rather do. It has worked for me so far. I will say I don't have the size that some others do. I think we have about 100 people right now. And so it's not at the size that some of you all are at, and that probably helps me as well.
Y'all are about the same size as our community. Of course, like, you know, we're really freaking picky, or we'd have more, I'm sure, because we've been around for a long time. But like, I think that's a great size community, honestly. Too much. I don't like there being too many people in our community because I can't keep up with everyone. I can't check on everyone. I can't ask people if they're doing okay because there's 80 people to ask, you know, or whatever. Oh my God, that's the second time I sucked up a bug.
What?
Jeez, this is not a vegan friendly stream here.
No, it's not, and I don't think this is very ethical, and I'm upset now.
To be fair, bugs do be dying in the process of
I mean,
producing
I guess it's protein,
most
right?
agricultural products. 1
Oh
gram of
no, you
protein.
will eat bugs and you will be happy.
Eh.
I like fried bugs more than raw bugs, I'm just gonna say. But
I like a lot
anyway,
of things fried.
thank you for sharing that stuff. Thank all of you guys for sharing with us today. And like honestly, I like the practice that Jeremiah does on his stuff, so I'm gonna steal it. Like I'd love to give everybody a chance to go around and do like some closing statements and stuff like that. And also don't forget to pitch your communities and your social media and stuff like that.
Alrighty.
Hit it, Willow. We'll just go in a circle.
I mean, fair enough. So, my closing statements. I guess, well, shit. Depends on who's watching, but I generally say make your spaces with intent, have vision, and I also really, just on a very small sideline, really agreed with what Hody said in terms of not being just anti stuff, which is really why I
Mm-hmm.
like the solar punk movement. And with that, I will plug
Yeah.
in one of my Discord servers, Anarchist Solar Punk, where we explore not just anarchist theory, anarchist praxis, but also uh, I guess their applications of solar punk to anarchy and alternative ways of living away from an industrialized and state-centric world, how that would look like, and how we can actually start taking steps to work for those things. Urban gardens, like local libraries of things, shit like that. Hope you're interested and would love to see you there.
I'm gonna go back and edit the link into the collection of links in the
Yeah,
description on
fair
our
enough. Do
YouTube
that.
video. I'll probably put the Gravitas link tree in there too if y'all are interested in that.
I
Hody's
was
community
intending to
is
be
there.
totally anonymous, but I think most people can tell who I am.
Well, I mean, I don't know that. A lot of people don't know. We could just be vague. It'll be fine. We'll work it out.
True, fair
What?
enough.
Okay, so what do you got? What do you got for us, Hody? What's your closing statement on tonight?
Yeah, I would encourage people. It's very frustrating to try and fix the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
The entire world is busted in ways that you can't control, and you need to let that go. That's just a route to unhappiness. Control what you can, fix what you can. We talk about tyranny starts at home a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the worst abuse you'll suffer at your life probably won't be at the hands of an agent, but at the hands of somebody who was a family friend who
Yes.
betrayed that trust, right? Like your local schools, your local church, like those are the top two places besides the home that kids are likely to get
Mm-hmm.
molested, right? And so, when
Mhm.
you see, worry about home. There are plenty of things that need to get fixed at home, where you
Yeah.
are, wherever your community is. And that includes your digital community. Like there are people that you can reach and focus on the small, focus on the individual, focus on one by one. And also, one of my favorite passages from the Bible is like, stop trying to remove specks of dust from everybody else's eye and pull the plank out of your own. Now, that's a tough
Yeah.
verse for some people because we all like to think like, well, no, they have the plank and I have the little small thing. Like maybe I'm a little judgmental, but they're committing adultery or something like that. But that's intentionally phrased that way.
Yeah.
Internal will always be more destructive than external. If there is a problem with your philosophy internally, if Christians are behaving badly, that does so much worse than anything atheists could do to us.
Yeah.
Anything atheists could do to us. Why is it? You go to any Facebook post, YouTube thing that's bagging on religion, and look at how many comments say like, "Oh, see that behavior there? That's why I left. This is why I left." People will tell you this is not quiet information. They are
No.
telling you the bad behavior from Christians, from libertarians, is why they're leaving. Now you can go like all high and mighty and just be like, well, you should be able to tolerate our bad behavior, but that's not how human beings work, right? Like Jesus recognized this. That's why he fed people and took care of their problems and healed them before speaking a lick of scripture to them, if he decided to speak about that at all. Usually
Mm-hmm.
you had to approach him.
Mhm.
There was this stat that you are like 5 times more likely to become a libertarian if you get out of debt than if you are reading a libertarian book. Now think about that for a moment. Like, you didn't have to say liberty to anybody, but if you help somebody like get out of debt, you've helped them become a libertarian more than if you just were like, read Rothbard, bro. Like, I understand why you like Rothbard. Like, I do. I am very influenced by libertarian literature as well. And believe that's I'm sorry to I'm like, that's a whole other can of worms, right? But like, you know, whoever your favorite libertarian writer is, right? Like, the thing is what's more likely to make a person a Christian then? Is it saying, hey, read Leviticus, read Ecclesiastes again? Or is it saying, hey, you look lonely, do you want to sit at my table?
Yeah, exactly.
Undoubtedly, the second thing is making more Christians than the first. Like, and just we're wired wrong. We're engaged in these phony online algorithms and debates, and we're basically playing against computers when we do this. Like, we are interfacing with machines and systems that just aren't real. And so I want to get back to like what's real. And that is like, focus internally. The plank is, treat it like the plank is always in your eye. Always. Don't worry about everybody else says dust in their eyes. Great. Focus on yourself. Why is it when Paul, when expanding the church, wrote the letters not to the Romans, but the Romans were crucifying people. The Romans were killing people. The Romans were conquering. The Romans were attacking. Yes, the Romans were undoubtedly more evil than the Christians. And yet, the solution to Christianity was not fixing the Romans. It's fixing the Christians. It was fixing ourselves. And so I would rather focus internally and say, I can control that. That's something I can do. If you're a lefty, you guys were talking about this earlier. If you're a lefty and you see a lefty go off the rails, how much more impactful is your criticism than right-wingers who are like, look at that left-winger who went off the rails, right? Like, that does nothing. That changes them not at all. But if you're a trusted friend and you go, hey, that was really off the rails, dude.
Yeah.
A million times more impactful, especially if you've invested in them. If you want a place to invest in people, if you want like a community where we love each other, we're open to discussions. Obviously, it's a Christ-based community, but you know, so a lot of the conversations are going to talk about religion, philosophy, that kind of thing. But you want a safe place and you want to be part of something that's a healthy environment right off the bat. Please join us. You'll have You'll have a link in the description, and I really appreciate all of you for letting me be part of this.
I really appreciate you coming in, and you know, like, that community is great. I feel welcome there. I'm not Christian, and I'm you know, like, I've been gun shy of meeting new Christians a lot lately, but like, I'm really appreciative of y'all. And you know, like, y'all didn't just like let me hang out. Y'all invited me to speak with y'all and everything. It was the way things are supposed to be, honestly, the way it was told to me that it was supposed to be. So yeah, he's not just talking out his butt, y'all. It's a really good place to be. So you should definitely go check it out if that's within your interest. How about you, Jeremiah? What you got? You got some closing words and some pitches?
So I don't know, like, if you want like overwhelmingly negative conspiracy theorist content that's like going to generally make you think apocalypse is coming, my content is there. It's not all that. Like, recently I helped build a bridge between some warring factions in Michigan, and helped patch some of that shit over. We'll see if that has any lasting impact, and I hope it does. But other than that, like, generally speaking, like, you know, I've got a cult. If people want to become a cult member, they can hit me up. But like, my closing statements are, we're fucked. And unless we're willing to like recognize the foundational elements that have made us fucked forever, unless we're willing to understand the cultural ramifications of certain actions, beliefs, principles, and practices, then we will never escape the fascist dystopia that has been coming for a significant period of time. For a long time, the fascists have been trying to secure power, and it didn't work like as fully as maybe some of them wanted to in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, but they certainly didn't lose.
Yeah, but like, those people And that's the primary thing. They didn't lose because they had support in the West. They had support from Western governments. I wrote a whole article for the Free Thought Project, and I'll probably be writing more articles for them about quite a few things. But like that one was the one I wrote so far about how the U.S. and West literally helped Nazi Germany get away with it, helped a bunch of Nazis escape through rat lines through the Galen organization, helped a bunch of these people like worm their way into NATO and a bunch of other places. And generally speaking, that fascism has proceeded because so many American companies and so many Western companies that did business with those people, and so many like interests and people like in families that are now in power are like literally the foundation for Nazi Germany. The Bush family comes to mind. The reason I'm bringing all this up is because in many liberty spaces, these people have infiltrated. These fascists disguising themselves as libertarians, these like authoritarians disguising themselves as anti-authoritarians, sort of like the fuckface who joined the chat today. And in general, generally speaking, those are who you primarily have to watch out for right now.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's been watching the Chase campaign, anybody who's been watching recent libertarian happenings can tell you for a fact that you are either in the anti-woke or the woke camps. And if you
Yes.
like try to straddle that line, you are going to be kicked out
Of
by both
everywhere.
of them. Yeah. And so let me be real clear here. If your circles are trying to get you to like adopt fascist rhetoric or mentalities or whatever,
Or
and
accept it or tolerate it?
yeah, those people are your enemies. And there are a certain group of people who are well intentioned enough that are tolerating certain aspects of that
Yes.
in their spaces and in their circles and in their cultures. And what I say to that is recognize the signs, because they're building this. The elections are indeed rigged. If it was legal and working and effective to like use the political system to change like the world, to fundamentally unseat these people from power, they would remove that process, because these people are not interested in democracy. They're interested in power. So if you want the real shit, this Project 2025 shit, the Trump shit, like all of the rightoid organizations that have been being built and supported for a long time, those are who you have to watch out for. And anybody who even remotely behaves like or tolerates them in the left. Red brown alliances are a very real problem. So what I'm going to say is, if anybody has a problem with you saying you're anti-fascist, they're the problem. If
Yes.
anybody has a problem with you saying that you support minorities or that you oppose bigotry, they're the problem. If anybody like tries to get into your spaces by also saying that we should tolerate certain elements of like fascism in the past, then they're the problem. So what I'm going to say to you is, like, recognize those problems, recognize other security vulnerabilities, and recognize that we are ramping up to a world of infiltration. So be able to suss those people out, form pattern heuristics, understand what we're dealing with, because the primary force that we're supposed to be like fighting right now as anarchists, maybe someday it might be tankies, maybe someday it might be authoritarian leftism, but right now it fucking isn't. So wise up and understand the state capitalist and its more refined fascist threat, and fuck
Yes.
that shit up. And don't let it in your spaces. Recognize the patterns and recognize that these people are trying to hide in this space, in these spaces. And that's why this motherfucker on Twitter identifies as ATF memes for Mujahideen dreams. You ain't Boog. You ain't one of them. You're like a hanger on who like fucking wanted to like glom onto this space, this particular thing, and doesn't like the people who were actually involved in those spaces to
Yeah.
begin with. You're talking to legacy motherfuckers, bitch. And when we're talking like real shit, People like that are all too common in these spaces.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere and they're extremely disruptive and they will do anything to Trojan bigotry and dissent and distraction in.
Mhm.
Most often they do it by trolling, quote unquote. We're just joking, guys. We're just
Mhm.
joking.
And if your circles, if anyone in your circles sounds too much like the CPAC chortling demons that were laughing and clapping for eradication of trans people, then you're the problem.
Yeah.
You. And those people are the people who are forming the foundation for how things are now. DeSantis is in power. There are so many states passing those bills against trans people. There are so many states passing those bills against migrants. There are so many people trying to align along these goals. And Biden ain't fucking shit in terms of the eyes of the public. So if elections
Mhm.
do work, he's still out. And if elections don't work, they're clearly building the next boogeyman, and Trump is
Yep.
getting in, and they've already planned this. This is a scripted show, folks. So you need to understand your lines and how to go off script without getting kicked off the set. Fuck them up. Smash the state.
Thanks, bro.
Beautiful closing
Also,
sentiment.
their coin tree is down below in the YouTube. So, like, if you want to go find them or help or support them or anything like that, it is already there. I don't have to add that one in yet. I guess as my closing statements, I'm just gonna remind people that like the platforms that you create, they will expose people to whatever the fuck you put into them. And so, if you allow your garden to be tainted by weeds, that's what they're going to be exposed to. If you platform things, if you share stuff, the meme might be great, but the person who shared the meme is sharing all of this other horrible stuff and trojaning these ideas to everyone who follows you. Steal the fucking meme. Just copy paste it right into your little post and don't fucking link back to people like that. Take a minute to check because we are accidentally sending droves of our friends and families into spaces where they are being literally just introduced to the Trojan message and Trojan rhetoric of fascism. Most of them do not even realize that that's what it is because fascism doesn't walk up to you and go, "Hey, you want to do some fascism?" It walks up and goes, "Hey, you want to be friends? Like, I'm pretty wholesome. Like, I just want to like support you and affirm some stuff. And like, even, dude, they'll even come to queer people. They'll be like, hey, you're different. You're not like the rest of them. You should share, like, you should start talking like me. And, like, that's how you end up with people like Blair White.
Oof.
Be careful.
I think
You
Blair
have,
White's very intentional.
well, she helps funnel confused and hurting uh queer people into spaces where they can be tokenized to
Yeah,
make more
she's a
little tiny Blair
grifter.
Whites. And so, like, you have to be careful. You may be bringing people towards liberty and thinking that you are and stuff, but if you don't mind your spaces, you are actually just leading them to ruin. You're not being that guy that stands at the edge of the cliff and tells everyone to stop. You're being the guy who actually tells them to run faster. So just keep an eye out for that. Watch each other's backs. Don't get too freaking defensive. If somebody pops up to tell you, hey, that thing's not great, do you know where that came from? Don't fucking yell at them. Don't go, are you calling me a fascist? Be like, what are you talking about? Show me the information. Let me learn. Nobody out here is trying to create more fascists than there actually are. In fact, people who think that they might have found a fascist if they find someone who's just at risk. It's actually really great because then we can, like, we get, it's a boost. We can help you. We can give you information and stuff like that. Don't hide your ignorance. Ask questions if you're one of the people who are coming out there to search for these places. But yeah, um, keep working it. Keep building your shit. Keep spreading out. Keep confederating, and don't ever forget that safety, your sec, it's everybody around you safety and sec, and not just yours. If you are a weak link, you're the one that's going to hurt everybody else, even if you love them. That being said, we have a bunch of stuff coming up in the future. We have but I would like you guys, if you enjoyed this, to come back on Monday. I'm going to be having Jeremiah on, and we're going to do like a one-on-one interview style like I used to do. I really love those. They're very conversational. I have a bunch of cool stuff that people have asked me to ask him and stuff like that. So like, I hope you guys will come back and join us. It's going to be at 3 CST, I believe. I will get up a reminder on the YouTube channel and stuff like that as soon as possible. And, you know, get down into the links and stuff. If you want to join our community, you will have to apply and jump through hoops because, you know, that's just how it is. But you're welcome to come and do that and see if you can't hop on with us. Get down in those other Discord links and check out some other communities. And, you know, if you're looking for us elsewhere, we have a link tree down there. I will see you guys really soon. And never forget, safety is illusion. Do everything you can to be free. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bros that kill Melvins, more Frankie, keep the suckers out. Cussin' OG, if you know about the kid in these mother proud. Talking about the trees and the roads that came from the wild.